across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are now. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, your host, and I'll be with you all the way until 7 o'clock. I'll be with you for 3 powerhouse views of news, views and topical debate. Get involved, get stuck in, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, July the 27th. Here's what's coming up. More fun climbing of King Andy's magic money tree in the sure knowledge that when reality bites and the PM realises he can't afford his far-fetched financial promises, we're all going to fall crashing back to the ground. Now, to free up some of the mountain of funds he needs, Burnham seems to think he can persuade persuade his backbench MPs to ease up on the grotesque £350 billion a year welfare bonanza and stop handing benefits to young people with anxiety and depression. It's a good idea, but Andy, good luck with that. God knows you're going to need it. Ask Keir Starmer. They won't let you do that. 0344 499 1000. In other news, here's to the German Interior Minister, the only politician in all of Europe who has dared to mention that the murderous maniac who drove into the Berlin Pride parade was, whisper it quietly, an Islamic terrorist. Apparently unnoticed by the Western world's great leaders, the deranged driver who killed one victim and maimed many others was a Muslim. A 28-year-old Islamic State wannabe on a twisted mission to slaughter gay people. And yet Labour MP Kate Osborne tweeted that, like this, it was all Reform UK's fault. You see, Nigel? You didn't know it, but it's your fault what happened in Berlin. It's your fault, Reform UK, that Islamic terrorist drove into the Berlin Pride parade. Yes, Kate Osborne says that act of murderous madness by an Islamic terrorist was the fault of Reform UK. She tweeted that. Kate Osborne, Labour MP, it's all Reform UK's fault. This is what the problem we're up against. I mean, how pathetic is that? How are we going to solve the scourge of Islamist terrorism if we're too frightened to confront the truth of it? If we're too terrified even to mention it? 0344 499 1000. Also on today's action-packed show, nearly 1,000 illegal migrants have crossed the Channel in not-so-small boats from France since King Andy ascended to the Westminster throne just a week ago. Among them, police believe, a significant number of Iranian agents posing as asylum seekers and a gang of thugs wanted for a recent murder on the North French coast. But still, not a single word from our supreme new leader on the issue that concerns Brits the most. He's doing nothing, he's saying nothing. What should our deeply undemocratic Prime Minister do about the escalating migrant crisis? Stop the silence might be a start, don't you think? 0344 499 1000. Plus, the £630 million the woke British police have spent on diversity since the killing of George Floyd in America 6 years ago. The Albanian drug dealer, who a judge spared from deportation because his daughter wets the bed. Too harsh on her to have her dad sent back to his home country, obviously. Well, that's okay then, isn't it? How mad is that, seriously? He's been to jail twice since he came here in 2002 for drug dealing. He was deported, but didn't seem to go. This was years ago. Never did leave. Went to jail again. And now they're trying to deport him again, but a judge has decided he won't be deported because his daughter wets the bed and the upheaval would be too harsh on her. That's what it is. I don't know what to say about that. What do you think? 03444991000. And finally, the taxpayer-funded exhibition that apparently proves that teddy bears can be trans too. And lastly, we'll take a look at Meghan Markle's latest strategic photo dump on Instagram and all the other mad stuff that's going on Planet Harry and Meghan. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday afternoon together. Let's go over to my first guest. He is the Director of Popular Conservatism, Mark Littlewood. Welcome, Mark.
Afternoon, Kev. Good to be with you.
Good to have you on the show. Well, first of all, let me ask you what you think about this. We had this terrible incident over the weekend. This Muslim maniac, Islamic terrorist, we know this now, drove into the Berlin Pride parade, killing one, maiming many others. Not a single, the only politician in all of Europe who has mentioned that the perpetrator of this heinous crime, this terrorist crime, was, in fact, an Islamist terrorist hell-bent on doing harm to the infidel, particularly gay infidels, who, of course, fundamental Muslims don't particularly approve of. No one in all of Europe, none of our great leaders, they've all said how awful this event was. It's an attack on our freedom, our values, etc. None of them, not a single one, has mentioned that it was Islamic terrorism. Now, this kind of terrorism is getting increasingly frequent on the continent. You know, it's happening time and time again. How are we, the West, Britain especially, how are we going to confront or to tackle the scourge of Islamic terrorism, which is a big thing? It's a major syndrome, a major issue. How are we going to tackle it if our political leaders are too terrified to even confront the truth of it, too scared to even mention it? How are we going to deal with it?
Well, Kev, look, it's like any other problem, big or small, isn't it? In order to tackle a problem, you've got to be completely honest about what that problem is. And I'm afraid that a good number of our politicians are simply engaged in psychological displacement activity, rather than actually facing up to a problem that is absolutely clear as day. You know, we need to be careful that we describe it correctly. You know, not every Muslim is a terrorist. It's a tiny minority, but it is a minority within one particular identifiable religion, right? When you hear there's a terrorist attack, you rarely expect the follow-up reports to confirm that it was some lunatic Buddhist or a suicide Methodist. It's so often from this cohort. And if we're not allowed to admit that and then talk about how to tackle it, we will never solve the problem. So we have far too many politicians, you mentioned one earlier, who would rather pretend there is not a problem here and suggest that referring to it at all is all the fault of the far right or Reform UK or Nigel Farage. And for as long as that goes on, I'm afraid we will continue to see a recurrence of these sort of things. Fortunately, they're not that frequent, but they are obviously utterly, utterly horrific. And we seem determined, or at least our political elite to wish it away and to imagine it's not happening, rather than getting down and actually tackling the important issues, which we need a serious discussion about. But that discussion is verboten at the moment, because to raise the issue is to be labelled an extremist, to be stirring up hate and all of the rest of it. So until our political elite grasp that fact and start speaking honestly about what's actually happening in the world, our chances of finding a solution to tackle a problem are near zero, I'm afraid, Kevin.
Kate Osborne is the Labour MP for Gateshead. She tweeted from Oradea, formally banning the 2026 Pride March with homophobic rhetoric to Reform here in the UK, to GB News spouting nonsense broadcasting content and language that attacks and vilifies the LGBTQ plus community, to the attack on Berlin Pride that has left 1 dead and 16 injured. We see these patterns emerging across Europe, an escalation of hate, verbal attacks online, act as a catalyst for real-world physical violence. No, Kate, this was an Islamic terrorist maniac.
Yeah.
He was full of Islamic hate for gay people. It was nothing to do... She's blaming Reform UK. Can you even get your head around the derangement of that, Mark?
It's just extraordinary to bracket all of those things together, right? That's what's completely bizarre about it.
Yeah, and the one thing she admits, Mark, is the real reason that this is an Islamic terrorist.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, we just can't face up to this, apparently, that there is a problem here that we need to confront. And therefore, to bracket all of those things together, I'm surprised you weren't in the firing line as well, Kev. Isn't it all the fault of Kev O'Sullivan?
It will be next week, mate. Don't worry.
Blaming you before you know it, my friend. It's just extraordinary, and I'm afraid it is just part and parcel. Look, I completely get this idea that we have one world in which to live, and people of different creeds, colours, and religions and beliefs all need to rub along together, and different lifestyles and all the rest of it. But we have to build a framework in which that is possible, not simply believe that it will automatically happen. And I'm afraid, what's her name, Kate Osborne, just seems to think that it's automatically happening, and anyone who says otherwise is, a disruptor and is spreading hate and bile. You don't need to be spreading any hate or bile to say we have to get to the bottom of Islamism and tackle it. And if we don't, more innocent people will die. That's my position. And I'm afraid if Labour MPs find that I'm sort of whipping up some sort of unnecessary storm, they are wrong. We've got to have a proper conversation about how to tackle this. And it links in with the immigration problem that the political establishment have been completely incapable, whatever stripe of government we've had in dealing with, and what we consider to be acceptable rules of conduct while you're here. And we're just hearing in your monologue, Kev, that the idea that we can't deport you if your daughter wets the bed. I mean, we have constructed a set of absolutely ludicrous rules that are now more likely to undermine our society than protect it. And all of this needs to be unravelled and reset in a calm and coordinated fashion, or we are going to stay on the road to rack and ruin, I'm afraid.
Yeah, just to quickly run through some of these people. Of course, the EU chief, the Commissioner of the EU, President Ursula von der Leyen, said the Pride event stands for freedom, dignity and equality, the fundamental values of the EU. Every person should be able to live, love and stand up for their rights without fear. Yeah, blah, blah. Netherlands Prime Minister Rob Jetten said, we stand shoulder to shoulder with our German neighbours. Yeah, yeah. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni expressed solidarity and sincere sympathy. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And the UK's Defence Secretary Wes Streeting called the incident an absolutely horrific disaster, as if it had been some kind of an accident. So no mention that from any of these people that this was an egregious act of Islamic terrorism. We've got to confront this. This does not help all of these politicians sticking their head in the sand, ostrich-like. You know, don't mention Islam. I think I mentioned it once, but I think I might have got away with it. That's kind of that's where we're at. It is absolutely absurd, and we've got to do something about it. Let's move on to our promises. New Supreme Leader Andy Burnham, King Andy. Well, you know, last week we estimate he committed to something like £2 billion worth of promises, £850,000 worth of cuts on our energy bills, £450 million on £2 bus cap, 100 million on a tax breaks for pubs and hospitality venues, and more. So he made all those commitments, and it's pretty certain that he hasn't got the money to pay for them. Meanwhile, very tellingly, in his first, what you might call, semi-serious interview, he sat down finally with the BBC's Laura Kuenssberg yesterday. We haven't got the details of this yet. The BBC and Mr. Burnham strangely seem to be refrigerating the contents of this interrogation. It's going out live tonight at 8 p.m. on a special edition of Panorama. Don't know why I'm doing the BBC's plugging duties, but here I go. But seriously, in this interview, they've released little bits. He refuses to commit to the 3% GDP spending pledge on defence by 2030 that essentially Keir Starmer has promised, that John Healey, the current Chancellor, quit as Defence Secretary when he didn't think Rachel Reeves, that his predecessor, was going to give him the money. So Andy Burnham is now refusing to commit to that 3% GDP spending on defence by 2030, which I think is extremely worrying.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I have to say I'm slightly sceptical always about these exact targets of 3%. I think we might need a bit more than that, actually, to repair our defences. So I think it should be based more on need. I mean, one way of getting to the 3% of GDP target, Kev, is that you absolutely crash your GDP. Suddenly it becomes more affordable if your GDP goes down. But that aside, what our new masters and overlords have yet to properly delineate for us is any sense of where their priorities are. So I am sort of trying to read the words of Andy Burnham in much the way that you had to interpret what was really meant by the Soviet leaders back in the day, because you'd never get a kind of straight answer and a direct, position from them. So you have to sort of read the tea leaves and try to work out what's really going on behind the scenes. Yeah. And I would like him to sort of have a few non-negotiables. Defence, in my view, is pretty much the number one priority of any government. So some indication, right, that's going to be our number one priority, and I think we need to get to position X on timeline Y. I want to hear that from him. And then I want some sort of sketch, and this seems to be absolutely nowhere in the narrative, about where we're going to save money from, right? So that, I mean, you would have thought from last week's announcements that the Treasury is awash with money and scratching its head about what to spend it on, that the money's pouring in so quickly into His Majesty's coffers that the government is desperately looking for means in which we can dosh it out. I'm afraid the position is much, much different to that. We have a colossal national debt that we are adding to annually. We've not balanced the books in any budget from any government now for a quarter of a century. We are not awash with money. We need to find very, very serious savings. And all of these announcements, whether you like them or dislike them, whether you think they're going to make a difference or they're just sort of fiddling about bus fares and tax breaks for very modest tax breaks for pubs and music venues. This is absolutely fiddling at the edges. To get our public finances back in order, you need to be able to find something in the region of £150 billion worth of savings, probably 200 billion if you're actually looking to put us on a long-term sustainable footing, because generally speaking the demographics are against us as far as public spending is concerned. We would expect spending on health and welfare to generally be going up, not down, as each year passes. Well, we're nowhere near that. We're fiddling around with a few hundred million here and a few hundred million there, whether you like these policies or not. So they're not grasping the nettle at all here on big cuts. And as you've already referred to, Kev, all right, there's this idea, not before time, that perhaps young people should be better off if they work rather than if they protest that they've got anxiety. But I'm highly sceptical that they will be able to pilot that through. We have almost exactly the same parliamentary Labour Party that we had when Starmer failed to, and they weren't even making cuts then, right? They were just trying to stop the acceleration of welfare. So I can't see any savings. And if you haven't got any savings, you have no money to play with, and you are just kicking the can down the road. And always remember, debt and deficit is just tax deferred. If you are borrowing today, it is a tax that someone at some point in the future will have to pay. Either you and me, Kevin, or our kids or our grandchildren. But that's the way that the country's been governed for quarter of a century now, and there appears to be no change of trajectory by the new Burnham administration whatsoever.
Absolutely. Just north of Westminster in Kentish Town, where the former Prime Minister Keir Starmer now resides, I suspect he's giggling behind closed doors, because Burnham is now going down the same route he tried to go down, which was to go to his militant backbench Labour MPs and say, oh, can we just ease up on the welfare bill a bit, because I need some money for defence. So he's talking about maybe finding $2 billion by stopping kids claiming anxiety and depression benefits. Well, yeah, that makes sense, but Starmer tried that. He will go to the backbenchers, cap in hand. Oh, can I stop giving them benefits for anxiety and depression? And they will go no.
Yeah, I think that's right, Kev. But the important thing to bear in mind is, let's just suppose, let's be a bit more optimistic about Andy Burnham's chances and his whipping operation, and perhaps the immediate glow of loyalty that he has in his early days and weeks in office. Let's suppose he gets it through, that every single Labour MP accepts it without complaint. Even then, you are not even touching the sides of the sort of savings that need to be made. All right, maybe you can make it with $2 billion here, $2 billion there, $2 billion somewhere else. But you need almost daily announcements of these kind of reductions in order to get anywhere near to balancing the budget, which, as I say, this year we're probably going to be 160, 170 billion, maybe more, in the red. So $2 billion here, you know, $1 billion there, 850 million somewhere else. These are all rounding errors.
Yeah, but you know, Andy Burnham, he is part of that ilk. He's from Labour. They genuinely believe in the magic money tree. He's going to find out it doesn't exist. He's going to collide with the reality very, very soon, and it won't be a pretty picture. Mark, brilliant to talk to you. Thank you so much. The excellent Mark Littlewood there. He is the Director of Popular Conservatism. Next up, we're going to speak to the equally excellent Deputy Leader of Durham Councillor. He is Reform UK's Darren Grimes. That next. Stay tuned.
To be here with you all in the heart of Manchester this Friday morning at the end of, you know, a fairly big week is just everything to me.
If I have to watch one more saccharine video of him pulling a pint or talking about his favourite bar snacks with John Healey, whatever mawkish, minimalising, utterly moronic, stupid bit of social media tidbit they're trying to throw to us, you know, the sugar to help the Marxist medicine go down.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's go over to Reform UK's Deputy Leader of Durham Council, Darren Grimes. Welcome, Darren.
Very good to see you, Kev.
Always a pleasure. I wanted to get you on this particular issue because I think it is a growing scandal that our new Supreme Leader, the Prime Minister, foisted upon us only a week ago. He's been in office essentially for a week. He's issued statements on a whole confetti of policies. You know, he's barely kept his mouth shut ever since he came in. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. Aren't I great? What he has failed to mention once, even once, Darren, is the migrant crisis. Now, over this week, his first week, Andy Burnham, near enough 1,000 migrants have crossed the Channel illegally on not-so-small boats. The boats are getting to be huge now. One of them last Friday had 165 passengers in it. It's the biggest ever so-called small boat. So they're coming across. Still they come. Now, along the way, we learned over the weekend that police now believe significant numbers of Iranian agents from the Iranian Republican National Guard Corps are sneaking into Britain, posing as asylum seekers, posing as migrants. Also over the weekend, police believe that a gang of thugs responsible for a murder on the North French coast sneaked across the Channel in a boat, so cops are looking for them. So all of this is going on. 1,000 people coming on. Iranian agents sneaking into the country. Murderers, suspected murderers on the loose in the country, having come here by small boat. And so far, not a single damn word on the migrant crisis from our Prime Minister. That's a disgrace, isn't it?
You're right, it is a disgrace because ultimately this is a national security issue. You know, ultimately we ought to be able to say clear as day that the Prime Minister not saying the word immigration ought to be an alarm bell. And the alarm ought to be rang because of the fact that, one, you mentioned the Iranian and the terror threat that's posed there. Also on national security grounds in general, they're here to pick up intel, to spy against the British state, whatever else it might be. But as well as that, you know, take Rhiannon Sky White, I could go on with a list as long as my arm of British nationals who have been murdered by those who had absolutely no right to be in this country. Only this weekend I was covering the story of Cleo Lake, who was smacked unconscious by an Eritrean man who got 6 months inside, but he's not being deported. He's not going to be deported, despite the fact he has absolutely no right to be here. So people are asking these questions. The mother of Rhiannon Sky White, Siobhan White, has asked for a meeting with Andy Burnham, Kev. I don't think she ought to hold her breath. I don't think she's going to get one. He can find a camera, right, for a flood. He can strike a bus that's 3 minutes late and £2 subsidised fares. But small boats, he's like a silent monk. It's a disgrace.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And I think it might sort of sound the future for his administration. I think this is what he's going to be like. He's going to grin for the cameras about anything that he thinks might make him look quite good. But if it's a difficult issue, I think he'll avoid the subject. Certainly the migrant crisis, the problem with the migrant crisis from his point of view, it's not just an important issue. It is the most important issue that concerns British people. That is a statistic polling fact, that the British people are more worried, more concerned about the migrant crisis than any other issue. And we have a Prime Minister who refuses to talk about it. It's getting worse. Over the past week, before our very eyes, it kind of mushroomed. It's getting worse. They're still coming in. They're still being put in hotels. So nearly 1,000 over the past week. Each one of those will cost us at least £40,000 over the next year. So that's millions and millions of pounds. The moment they arrive, we'll pretty much put them into expensive hotels. We'll give them 50 quid a week benefits, free lawyers, free dentists, free doctors, free everything you like. free food. So we will continue funding these people forever. It is an issue that must be confronted, but our Prime Minister apparently refuses to do it. He refuses to confront this issue, and that does not bode well, does it? A Prime Minister who hides away from the issue that concerns the British people the very most.
Well, quite right. You're absolutely right. I mean, an Iranian intelligence official actually said that they don't need a missile to hit London. They've got something far more advanced than that. You know, they've got a rubber dinghy and a border force pointing a drone at it. They can come over. It doesn't matter. It's easy as pie to get into Britain. And the Quds Force, you know, one of the most feared outfits on earth, has looked at the British border and said, well, we'll walk it. Literally, we can walk straight in. It doesn't matter. It's easy as pie, despite the fact we have a literal sea border. It should be one of the most difficult nations on earth to enter. And I can't blame the Iranians for actually wanting to exploit this blatant loophole. And then the Islamists that come over from other countries, some of them, of course, will be passed on via the Iranians through their proxies. But those who want to come here to commit harm to women and girls, for example, they get a free pass. They're allowed in, they're allowed to stay, and we just shrug our shoulders. The reason that Andy Burnham does not want to engage with this issue, despite, as you say, it being one of the highest on the agenda for the British people, if not the highest, is because he's scared of upsetting his backbenchers. This is exactly the same parliament that Keir Starmer had, and we're going to find that it's got the same systemic weakness, cowardice, puerile nature. This is a parliament of pygmies that won't actually stand up and defend the British people. So I'm not in any way, shape or form optimistic. You can sing as many 1990s sort of Blairite reject songs that you want, Kev, but I don't believe that this is going to amount to a hill of beans.
I think you're right. Also, you would be, interestingly, we've been talking a lot, obviously, about number 10 North. I've been asking all my guests, a lot of my callers, what on earth number 10 North is for. What is it about? What exactly is it supposed to achieve? No one seems to know. Andy just comes up with ludicrous platitudes like it's about power flowing down to places like Birmingham. What is it? Power in every postcode. Now, I believe I'm right in saying, Darren, one thing I discovered on Friday is something like 45 or 48% of England is further north than Manchester. So you would be one of the people... So number 10, what he calls number 10 North, for you is number 10 South. This bizarre obsession he's got with one city, Manchester, that he's not even from. He's a Scouser. But this obsession with Manchester seems to be to the detriment of the rest of us. What about the rest of us?
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. I mean, not only that, but they're going to lose a large swathe of seats in the south. So the southwest, Kev, is not a part of the country that has had undeserved attention. It is a part of the country that struggles as much as we do. Ultimately, I'm sick of the media narrative calling him the king of the north. We don't know who he is up here, right? We've got absolutely no idea. And if the media class was honest with itself, they don't know what the man stands for either. So, yeah, he can take his number 10 door in the so-called north, which, by the way, my mother said to me, Kev, clear as day, clear as a bell. She said, Manchester's in the Midlands.
So, you see, some people say it's in the south. So for you, it's like I say, your mum, it's not number 10 North, it's number 10 South. So this whole thing is just bizarre.
And I'll tell you this, Kev, you remember when the BBC opened their studio in Manchester, right?
Yeah.
And they hailed it as, they moved the breakfast show over to Manchester. And they said that Salford was going to lead the way to representing the real country. All they did was create a bubble of the BBC in Manchester. And exactly the same thing is going to happen here. It is a vanity project. It is an expensive gimmick. And it's all about one man's ego.
Yeah, it is a vanity project. And literally, literally, if you try and analyse it, if you try and break it down, you still can't work out what it's supposed to be for. It just makes the country slightly less governable. I mean, I'm not a fan of devolution. I don't think devolving Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland has exactly been much of a success, nor has it been much of a success in the big cities. Devolution is the issue that we were talking about, the issue that concerns the British people the most. Statistically, the issue that concerns them the least is devolution, and yet Andy is obsessed with it for reasons that none of us can quite work out. I just do think it's a kind of narcissistic vanity project ego trip. That's all it is. Listen, Darren, you're going to stay with us because I think we need to discuss about terrorism, and we need to discuss what happened in Germany and why it is that none of our politicians, no politicians around Europe, dared to call what happened to the Berlin Pride Parade what it was, an Islamic terrorist attack. You look at all the statements from all the politicians, including West Streeting, you'd have thought it was some kind of, you know, godly accident or something. You know, it's really weird. We'll talk about that next. Stay where you are, Darren.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're still with the Deputy Leader of Reform UK as Durham Council. He is Darren Grimes. Darren, let's go through this terrible event over the weekend where this Muslim Islamic terrorist, for that's what he was, drove a car into the Berlin Pride Parade, killing one and maiming many. Horrific incident. The whole event had to be brought to a sudden halt. Now, the platitudes coming in from politicians all over Europe was said. For example, the EU President Ursula von der Leyen said that the Pride event stands for freedom, dignity and equality, the fundamental values of the EU. Every person should be able to live, love and stand up for their rights without fear. Yeah, sure. Netherlands Prime Minister Rob Jetten said the Dutch stand shoulder to shoulder with our German neighbours. That's great. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgio Meloni expressed solidarity and sincere sympathy. Very nice. The UK's Defence Secretary West Streeting called the incident an absolutely horrific disaster. Well, it wasn't a disaster. Disaster is as if to say it was an accident of nature.
Yeah.
All of those statements neglect to address that this was an Islamic terrorist attack on gay people. This was from a lunatic Muslim fundamentalist who doesn't like gay people. That's why he drove his car into that crowd and killed one person, injured many more. None of these politicians, including British politicians, have the guts to address what it was, an Islamic terrorist event. But the crown jewel, the the Medal of Honor for this diversionary tactic by our politicians goes to Kate Osborne. She's the Labour MP for Gateshead. She said from Oradea formally banning the 2026 Pride March with homophobic rhetoric to Reform UK here in Britain, to GB News spouting nonsense, broadcasting content and language that attacks and vilifies the LGBTQ plus community, to the attack on Berlin Pride that has left 1 dead and 16 injured. We see these patterns emerging across Europe, an escalation of hate, verbal attacks, online act as a catalyst for real-world physical violence. Well, thank you very much, Kate. But what this was an Islamic terrorist, hell-bent on killing and maiming gay people because he's a homophobic Islamic fundamentalist. It's not really, Kate, I have to unfortunately inform you, Reform UK's fault. Blaming Reform UK for the attack on Berlin Pride. Can you begin to even explain that, Darren?
Yeah, I mean, look, the fact of the matter is Reform UK is the only party that's actually willing to call out what is a civilizational moment in this country, in the sense of we are allowing unchecked and unvetted men to come into this country who do not share our views, values and culture. So there will be men who do not like the fact that gay men exist. I'll give you a story, Kev. Last year, I was approached. I was in Soho having some drinks, right, after a show I'd done. And I was approached by a man who came up to me and said that if I talk about Islam anymore, he will make sure that the streets of London are not safe for me. I reported it to the police and nothing happened. It's just a shrug of the shoulders. But he threatened my life. Now, Kate, as a lesbian, would of course be threatened herself. Her rights are threatened more by Islamists than they are by Reform UK, who wants to actually protect what is British values and law. Ultimately, I find it deeply, deeply offensive that despite the fact our criticisms are more around the trans element and the way in which that is encroaching on same-sex spaces and the rights of women to safety and security. By the way, the rights of women from men, not unlike these men that we're talking about right now, who have done the most unspeakable thing to women and girls when they've come to this country. This bloke had tried to join ISIS, but we say, okay, Kate, but the real radicalising force here is, of course, Nigel Farage. You've got to admire the reach, haven't you? A car ramming in Berlin. And she's pinning it on a Reform councillor in County Durham and elsewhere. Look, she lost her council in her part of the country, in her constituency, went overwhelmingly to Reform UK at the last election. She'll be the last Labour MP for Jarrow and Gateshead East, I can tell you that right now. And there is a reason, Kev, that back in March, More in Common found a polling company, found that gay and bisexual men back Reform UK more than they back other parties. And it's because I think we recognise that there is a last chance saloon for gay men in this country, because if we allow the kinds of men who committed this atrocity in Berlin, and actually, by the way, there is another story out there in the press in Paris today too, if we allow these people to come into our country and say no questions asked, you are welcome here, untrammeled and unchecked, then I'm afraid to say it will be gay men. And everyone has forgotten what happened to those gay men during the lockdown years who were sat enjoying some drinks in a Reading park. Yes. And they were butchered. They were butchered by a man who had no right to be here. Ultimately, what we are fighting for is the rights, the safety and protection, be they women, be they girls, be they gays, be they even trans people, to live their lives free from attacks and free from those who do not believe they have a right to exist. It ain't Reform UK that's the problem. It's the very people that the so-called be kind idiots welcome here by the boatload.
Exactly right. Kate Osborne describes herself in her bio as a queer out woman. In other words, as you say, a lesbian, living her life as a lesbian, completely out. Nothing wrong with that. But she doesn't seem to understand.
Doesn't want to, Kev.
Yeah, that people like that guy. His name is Abdul Balou. He's the German national with Lebanese roots who drove the car. People like Abdul Balou, who was subsequently hunted down and shot by German police, he's not on your side, Kate. He really isn't.
Exactly, Kevin. Can I just say really quickly, this comes in the same month, of course, that Anne Widdecombe was, of course, murdered.
Good point.
And to say that Reform UK is responsible for attacks on a pride parade, if you're not someone that reads the news, you may well believe that it was someone who was supportive of Reform UK, bizarrely, gets themselves to Berlin and drives themselves into a pride parade. It is bizarre, but it also says something about the way in which that we couldn't discuss Anne's horrible end, but you can politicise for your own political ends a Berlin attack on a pride parade and blame Reform UK. It is double standard, it is two-tier Britain in the extreme, and it is disgusting and vile. She should be ashamed of herself, but instead she has doubled down on the most nonsensical, moronic excuse I have ever heard. I cannot wait for her to lose her seat. I will absolutely love it.
I think at this rate she will lose it, Darren. She's not in touch with reality, or at least she's deceiving herself. But what she said is absolute nonsense. Blaming Reform UK for an Islamic terrorist driving a car into Berlin Pride Parade. Reform UK's fault. Kate Osborne, I would suggest, needs a bit of help. Darren, fantastic to have you on the show, as always. Thank you so much. The brilliant Darren Grimes there. He's a deputy leader of Durham Council for Reform UK. Next up, we'll talk to Mike Neville, former Met Police detective, about the fact that the police have been on this, the British police have been on a mad diversity spend ever since George Floyd was killed in America by a copper in 2020. Ever since then, the police in this country have spent £631 million on DEI initiatives. Woke insanity, folks. Absolutely mad. We'll talk to Mike about that next. Stay tuned.
To be here with you all in the heart of Manchester this Friday morning at the end of, you know, a fairly big week is just everything to me.
If I have to watch one more saccharine video of him pulling a pint or talking about his favourite bar snacks with John Healey, whatever mawkish, minimalising, utterly moronic, stupid bit of social media tidbit they're trying to throw to us, you know, the sugar to help the Marxist medicine go down.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. You remember that terrible killing of George Floyd, the bank robber, the convicted bank robber, drug addict, who a copper knelt on his neck after arresting him, and of course he lost consciousness and died. A terrible, terrible thing to happen. The copper was convicted, went to jail. It triggered this sort of worldwide reaction where police forces around the world, particularly here, started changing the way they approached their jobs because of what happened in Minnesota. I mean, why? But we did. Anyway, it turns out that since then, in 2020, police forces around the land have spent a staggering £631 million on DEI, diversity, equality and inclusion initiatives. Absolutely crazy. Let's talk to former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Hi, Mike. I'm just thinking. I'm just thinking of all the better ways that the police could spend £631 million than on diversity. We could recruit a lot of coppers for that for a kick-off, couldn't we?
Well, the numbers are, you know, I did this myself, that it works out about 2,000 extra officers that could have been recruited for that money, or it's something like over 8 million police hours. Imagine how many thieves, robbers and rapists we could have caught over that time with that money. It just shows, you know, with all these things, it's a case of follow the money. Who has made, somebody's been paid that £631 million. It's absolutely outrageous. And the public could have been better served.
I mean, why on earth? So there's something called the National Police Race Action Plan. This was created after George Floyd. I mean, what on earth are we thinking? Why would the police in Britain say, oh, blimey, there's been a terrible cop killing over in the cop killing of a suspect in Minneapolis? We better change our ways. I mean, what kind of insane thinking is that? What has Minneapolis got to do with, say, policing Canterbury and Kent or something?
Or even, Suffolk or Shropshire or wherever. It's just that it was a culmination of everything. This has been going on for a long time since the Macpherson report. People become obsessed with it. Careers have been, some people's whole careers have been about diversity and inclusion and not about catching villainy and making places safer. And I read the Chief Constable there, the Chief Constable Kearton, who comments on this, who's the national lead for diversity and the like, says, oh, you can't separate diversity from frontline policing. Well, I suggest, and she says it's critical, it underpins it. Well, obviously not, because the trust and confidence in the police in the last 2 decades has gone down like this. So the more diverse they've got, the more diversity training, the worse the trust and confidence in policing. And her own force, she was in charge of Suffolk Police, and they were graded as inadequate when it comes to responding to the public. So they say these words, and the words do not reflect what reality is on the ground.
Yeah, it's somebody called Chief Constable Rachel Kearton. She's the chair of the MPCC's Diversity, Equality and Inclusion Committee. She said, improving culture and inclusion is not separate from frontline delivery. It underpins it. I'm not sure if she's speaking English. It's a form of English she's speaking.
But it's 1984. It's 1984 talk, isn't it? It's riddles. It's riddles. It doesn't reflect.
Yeah, exactly right. She goes on to say investment in this area also supports forces in meeting their legal responsibilities. It's just gobbledygook, it's jargon, nonsense, absolute nonsense. I want to get you on this while I've got you, Mike. Another one of these deportations that never was. This is, again, a case of the way woke insanity is consuming this once great country. This is the story of Albanian drug dealer Sprezim Koka. He arrived as a 14-year-old from Kosovo in 2001. In 2017, he served a 21-month sentence for drug dealing. In 2022, he served a 3-year sentence for specifically cocaine dealing. He was supposed to be deported after 2017, but wasn't for some reason. After his most recent sentence, he has been fighting a deportation order, and it's now successful. His reason for staying was that to move would be too traumatic for his daughter, who is a troubled girl who, when he's away, wets the bed. She knows this because he's often away in prison. A foreigner who came here is in prison in a British... We then let him out, we don't deport him, and now a judge says we'll never deport him because his daughter wets the bed. Please, Mike, can you stop the world? I want to get off. It's gone mad.
It is insane. And John, what gets me when I read these stories, Kevin, it never names this judge, this tribunal judge. Who is this character who's made this decision? And why can't the whole... If this is traumatic for his daughter not to be with him, then send a whole lot of them back to Albania, Kosovo, or wherever they come from. This man, the reason he's fighting deportation, I think, is because the National Crime Agency sees £300,000 off him. And I bet to somebody who wants that £300,000, he won't be treated so lightly in Albania or Kosovo. But I think the public are just sick and tired of all this. They're sick and tired of these clever cloaked lawyers who become, they're immigration lawyers, and they suddenly become immigration judges, making these insane decisions. But this goes right to the top. This is the whole establishment who think this is a good idea. This is why we need to leave this European Convention on Human Rights. And this poor girl who wets the bed, well, I'm sure she can be treated by the medical authorities in Kosovo, Albania, and sorted out.
Yeah, and I would suggest, Mike, that this is, that you get some pretty absurd reasons that these deportees, these foreign crooks, give in their appeals not to be sent back to their home countries. Now, I think probably the all-time record winner for that is the Albanian drug dealer who said these kids didn't like Albanian chicken nuggets, and the judge said, well, in that case, you must stay in Britain because we can't have your kid eating chicken nuggets he doesn't like. Now, this guy's going to be allowed to stay because if he doesn't, apparently his daughter will wet the bed. As I say, this is spiralling out of control. It is absolutely mad. We need common sense in this country. We used to have lots of it, but we've lost it now, Mike. Good to have you on the show as always, mate. Excellent stuff. Mike Neville, brilliant former Met Police detective there, talking some common sense that the police no longer seem to have. What do you think about that? His daughter wets the bed. 0344 499 1000. Lots still to come. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Prison early release is very much a burning issue at the moment, isn't it? Well, you might remember a guy called Mick Philpott, super criminal, who back in 2012, 14 years ago or so, he set fire to his own home, a three-bedroom semi in Derby. His idea was that he would lay the blame on some kind of love rival who he was having a custody battle with, and also along the way he would emerge as a hero because he'd go in and save all of his own kids and look like the hero of the hour. But Mick's brilliant master plan didn't quite come off because 6 of his children died in that inferno. He then went on to telly, weeping away, saying, "Oh, can you help the police find the awful killer of my children? It was him." Well, he is launching a parole bid to be freed early. He says he's been rehabilitated. Well, so we'll have to let him out, won't we? You know, prison cells, and don't let him out, eh? How about that? We'll talk about that in just a little while. In the meantime, for the next 20 minutes or so, let's spend them in the excellent company of ace reporter for Talk, Samara Gill. Hi, Samara.
Hi, Kev. Great to be with you.
Good to have you here. Burnham, tonight at 8 p.m, we'll finally be able to get to see some kind of alleged proper interview that he's finally agreed to with Laura Kinsberg at the BBC. In this interview, we haven't seen much of it, but you can see, and we've seen one clip where he very clearly refuses to commit to spending 3% of our GDP, basically our national income, our national finances, the gross domestic product, on defence by 2030. This is the commitment that Keir Starmer made to NATO and by extension to Donald Trump. We have pledged to do this. Andy Burnham is now backtracking, doesn't seem to be intent on doing it. This is the 3% that his Chancellor, John Healey, when he was Defence Secretary, quit because it didn't seem to be forthcoming from Starmer and Rachel Reeves. Now, John Healey's the Defence Secretary, and his Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, seems to be indicating there won't be any old 3% being spent on defence. Meanwhile, our Defence Secretary, Wes Streeting, says if that money doesn't materialise, he will quit. So we've got a kind of shambles once again plunging this country in a state of utter vulnerability, into a state of vulnerability. We won't be defended unless we start spending this money. We will not be defended. It's outrageous.
I know. This situation reminds me of sort of the parent or the friend that you know that, you know, maybe doesn't have that much money but goes and spends it on frivolous, ridiculous things like, I don't know, going and shopping when, the fridge is empty and there are no groceries in there. It reminds me of that, where it's like, we do actually have the money, we're putting it all into DEI and, net zero and other ridiculous forms of government, and we're not putting it into defence at a time when we really do need it. And every time we get pressed on defence spending, it's like, oh, there's no more money left, we don't have enough money to go there. Yet we keep giving billions of dollars to Ukraine, for example.
Well,
that's not included within the defence budget.
The one solid, totally funded commitment that this far-left socialist Burnham government has made so far. It's the one commitment that you know they've got the money, they will be giving it. That's £10 billion to foreign aid.
Yeah.
So he's got 10 billion quid to give to foreign countries. Apart from that, it's all up in the air.
It's infuriating. And seeing that interview where Wes Streeting did vow that he would quit if Andy sort of failed to stump up the cash was really interesting, because he was also asked within that same interview if he knew how many frigates or destroyers were in the Royal Navy. And he said 5 frigates and 6 destroyers, just sort of off the cuff. But actually, the truth is it's 6 Type 45 destroyers and 7 Type 23 frigates.
So he gave it a whirl.
Yeah,
he thought he might get away with it.
Yeah, it was hilarious. He basically just gave it a shot. I mean, this is the defense secretary we're talking about. You've got Putin laughing away in Russia at this. He then said as justification, I'm barely a week into this job.
Oh, so you don't know how many boats we've got?
Yeah, he said, I'm barely a week into this job. We can go through a memory test, but, you know, I've got a lot on my plate. I mean, this is someone who's never been in the military. We are massively compromised here when putting him into this sort of position. And I've got a lot of time for Wes Streeting. I think he's one of the half-competent people that we do have in the front cabinet. But he really has.
Last couple of months, he's like the village idiot.
Exactly. I mean, we had those reports that he's obviously pushed back on, that he was crying in the elevator a week before they
so we know that's true.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we are in a...
I don't want defence. Why give me defence?
He spoke as well in this interview about talking with Pete Hegseth and sort of coming up with a plan with the US. I can't even imagine a meeting with him and Pete Hegseth in one room. They're 2 completely different people. I don't know how they're going to agree on anything. And what was also revealed within this same interview, where he said that he would quit, were his very, very interesting thoughts about Palestine and Israel. I don't feel comfortable, to be honest, having a foreign secretary that believes in the genocide that has happened in Gaza and all that claptrap, which we know is untrue and unsubstantiated. It's very, very dangerous to have someone who thinks that ideologically when we've got threats from the Middle East, threats from Iran.
We can't have, I agree with you, Samara, we can't have a foreign secretary indulging in this hysterical nonsense of the Free Palestine mob.
No.
Who always say genocide is genocide, and so the genocide the Israelis are committing. Well, they're not. Genocide has a legal definition. You have to fulfill various qualifications for mass murder to be classified as genocide. It has to be in pursuit of the death of a nation, etc., etc. Well, legally in Gaza, there has been no genocide. No ifs, no buts. That is a fact. So we can't have a foreign secretary playing the hysterical games of sixth form activists wailing on about genocide, the Jews are committing genocide. We can't have that from a foreign secretary.
No, completely. Because what if we were to have, God forbid, an October the 7th type event in London or in the UK somewhere? Is he going to then start putting his sort of pro-Palestine activism onto what we should and shouldn't do and how we should respond? I mean, this is stuff that he's actually going to have to confront if he wants to be a serious foreign secretary. And unfortunately, I don't think he's up to the job. And unfortunately as well, he's playing to his backbenchers again, because he knows that he needs to stay well within his bounds. I think he thinks that he sacrificed a lot by giving Andy Burnham the leadership, which he didn't really do. But I just think Wes is on a very uneven footing here to begin with, and it's not looking good for him as Defence Secretary. And he may have to quit now. He's going to have to stand by his word if Andy can't stump up the cash.
Because he ain't getting the money. He's not getting the money. I mean, that's another thing I want to talk to you about. Like Burnham, you know, he's made all these announcements.
Yeah.
If you tot them all up, it's more than £2 billion. If you start throwing in the nationalisation programmes he's got in mind, particularly for water companies, he needs to be thinking about finding, to pay for all of this, £150 billion, something like that. Yeah. Something like that. I mean, arguably, he needs it even more if you include his alleged council house building project. But let's give him £150 billion. Yeah. Well, he's nowhere near. He hasn't. I don't even think he can find a penny. The only thing he's talked about so far is he's going to try and cut back on the amount of benefits being paid to young people for anxiety and depression. So he's going to try and bring some common sense to our grotesque welfare overspending by telling people who are 21 and 22, just because you're a bit depressed or anxious, A, you don't get to miss work, and B, you don't get any benefits. He's going to try that. Well, OK, I'm not sure it's going to free up £150 billion, because it won't. But more than that, his backbenchers won't let him do it.
Exactly, I mean, completely. Look at just last summer, more than 130 MPs, 120 Labour MPs, they signed an amendment to reject the plans to cut disability and sickness-related benefit payments, which were going to save $5 billion per year by 2030, which is a fraction of what he needs for his utopia that he's trying to focus on for Britain. So it's not going to get past his backbenchers, who, to be honest, he's forever indebted to because of how they've, you know, how they've done a self-styled coup to get him into Parliament. He's going to have to basically pander to them for the next couple of years, at least, to keep them happy. You know, Starmer tried to get this through. He really did a couple times and couldn't do it. The backbenchers do not want to cut any form of benefits. In fact, they want to give more benefits out to people, from what we can see. They want to keep stuffing people's pockets so that they will keep voting Labour in the future and keep living off the state. And that's where the issue lies. So even though when I saw this headline, I thought, oh, that's great, he's going to crack down on youth sickness benefits, I don't think that's actually going to happen, and it's not going to save enough money, as you said.
No, exactly right. More and more, this number 10 North, half of these policies he's coming out, they're all about him. This is a sort of narcissistic vanity project where he's moving everything north. Keeps going on about Manchester. He's so obsessed with Manchester, you'd think he was from Manchester.
Which he's not, by the way.
He's a Scouser. He's from Liverpool. He's an Everton fan. Yeah. So, you know, it's well known that people from Manchester and people from Liverpool don't exactly love each other. So I'll tell you for a fact, there are a load of people in Manchester, they don't want to know about this scouse who keeps pretending he's a Manc. But this entire thing, this number 10 North, is an extremely expensive, extremely inconvenient vanity project. So he can go home for the weekend on a Friday, come back on a Monday, charge us all a fortune for it, fly up there. It's going to cost like £20,000 a time every time he goes there on the prime ministerial jet. And what is it for? What on earth is it for?
Take a run around the block in his short shorts, as he did again this weekend.
Can anyone explain? Can anyone explain, technically, as a matter of fact, what number 10 North is for?
I'll tell you what it's for, Kev. I'll tell you what it's for. Reform was getting an insane footing in the North. In fact, Reform was sweeping all the North in terms of its vote share and doing extremely well. In fact, it's the South that Reform actually does struggle to pick up votes on. It's actually, people have done, you know, focus groups to show that it's that Waitrose mummy shopper that Reform just cannot pick up. But the North is where it was doing
Lucky them. Who wants them?
But the North was getting
Careful
completely...
what you wish for, Nigel.
Yeah, exactly. The North was getting completely captured by Reform, and this is Labour's complete 180 to try and regain those votes. It's all about vote share. It's nothing about doing anything better for the good people of the North, and that's the worst part of it all. Andy Burnham, just before I came on air, there's an exclusive that dropped that said Andy Burnham to set up health and social care of the North in Leeds. So he's going to give them their own healthcare service? What does that even mean? Is that going to be a superior healthcare service to what we have in the South? Is he trying to set up the country for civil war or something like that, where, you know, you've got people getting better healthcare up there, having to travel down to the South, number 10 North? It's ridiculous.
Well, Guido Fawkes says it's going to be called the Yvette Cooper Department.
Oh, God.
Got to give her something to do, haven't you?
Speaking of, Ed Balls, her partner's been pretty interesting with what he said on the telly this weekend. Indeed.
Well, let's talk. Ed Miliband, apparently, according to reports over the weekend, is furious. I'm quoting it. Is furious and let down by not getting the chance for the Exchequer gig. He had his heart set on it. He got bought off. It's like, well, what about if I give you that job where you can fly around the world first class and stay in really nice places, you know, the Foreign Secretary? All right, then. So he got bought off with Foreign Secretary, but apparently he's furious about it. And naturally, to no one's great surprise, he said he's going to devote his new role as Foreign Secretary to revolving his entire job around climate change and foreign investment. In other words, foreign aid. So he's going to devote being Foreign Secretary to the climate change alleged emergency and foreign aid, spending money on foreign countries. That's good, isn't it?
Well, the thing, so according to internal briefings and different leaks that have happened, they are saying that really that is the plan, that Ed Miliband will be some sort of net zero zealot that will travel around, you know, show that the United Kingdom is at the forefront of green energy and blah, blah, blah. But who's really going to be doing the day-to-day stuff and the actual bolshy foreign office work is this guy called Hamish Falconer, who is a foreign office minister. He's in the office, and he will be doing most of the actual meetings, because they can't obviously trust Ed Miliband to be liaising with people like Marco Rubio, who he's meant to be meeting in the Philippines as we speak. But this was very interesting because
he's already told Marco Rubio that Britain remains committed to de-escalation of the American-Iran war.
Great!
Yeah, that's going to make a real big difference to anything.
Oh, in that case, Marco should just pack up and go home. Like, you know, Marco shouldn't even bother.
Ed Miliband is committed to de-escalation. Is that Donald? We're in big trouble. We're in big trouble. Yeah, right.
I have to say, these comments, though, that Ed Miliband being furious and let down, that's come directly from Ed Balls, who we know is obviously Yvette Cooper's husband, and was Shadow Chancellor when Miliband was Labour leader. You know, he's very well connected within the party. But I have to say, I think this is Ed Balls trying to spin everything, because he said, and I quote, Yvette Cooper has been really affected by the reshuffle. She was shifted from Foreign Secretary to the health brief. You know, she was supposed to be in the Philippines today. Instead, she had to go to Reading. So I think what's actually happened here is that Yvette is extremely unhappy.
She's not happy either.
She's not happy at all about
Philippines,
moving.
Reading, I don't know.
Philippines,
what's more
Reading,
glamorous, do you think?
Using the prime ministerial jet that she was using, it's definitely not vegetable oil powered as well. Ed Miliband will not be happy to find out. But yeah, it's interesting. I think that this is actually Ed Balls going and sticking his nib into things and trying to get Yvette back her foreign secretary role, which she so prized, because that is a glamorous job. It's a nice one to have.
It's the one that you buy off difficult cabinet secretaries with, because actually you can say what you like about it. It isn't all that important. Because most of the important stuff on the international stage, as Keir Starmer so theatrically demonstrated, is done by the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister flies around the world doing our foreign business.
Well,
the Foreign Secretary, not so much.
Do you remember, though, us reporting on the standoff that happened between Starmer and Miliband when Starmer did try to remove him? I think that happened in September, where Miliband literally point-blank refused to leave his position.
That's right. He wanted to shuffle him.
He wanted to shuffle him because he was like, no one cares about net zero anymore, mate. Like, this is completely doing us horribly in the polls. And he just said, I'm not going. Yeah. So clearly, at least Burnham's kind of had the last laugh here, and he's actually taking a bunch of money out of the net zero budget in order to fund things like the £2 bus cap.
Well, he's trying to, but I mean, he's trying to take it away also, as we said, from the welfare budget. But Keir Starmer tried this. You know, when you try and take money from the welfare budget, particularly to spend on things like defence, you're going to find that all those overgrown sixth form activists posing as Labour backbenchers just won't let you. You know, you've got people, among those people, hundreds of Labour left-wing backbenchers like Kate Osborne, the member for Gateshead, who thinks that Islamic terrorist driving into gay pride in Birmingham, in the parade there, she thinks that it was Reform UK's fault. this is the kind of thinking that Andy Burnham is going to have to deal with. They are a difficult crowd to please, to say the least. So I don't think he's going to get money from anywhere. So fairly soon, all these promises he's making are going to collide with reality. For example, last point really, for example, you know, it's all very well for him to put on hold, to pause the prison release, the early release scheme. And I kind of approve of that in principle. I don't think we should be releasing rapists and paedophiles and killers just to free up a bit of prison space, but that's what we're doing. So he's put that on hold. The thing is, when we reach about November the 1st, November the 2nd, if we haven't done anything about prisons, they will literally start to spill over. We will literally reach full. And you can't function like that. So it's all very well. He's kicking the can down the road. Oh, I'm going to bring down bus fares. Oh, yeah, I'm going to do something about your energy bills. Yeah, I'm not going to let out all these rapists. All nice things to say. But how is he going to manage it in the real world? What is he going to do about prisons? He'd better get his skates on, seriously. 0344 499 1000. Big thanks to Samara Gill. Next up, we'll talk to lawyer and writer Luke Gitos about evil dad Mick Philpott, who killed 6 of his kids in a fire that he started, so he thought he could look courageous, pulling them out of the blaze. Trouble is, it didn't quite work out. 6 of them died. He's trying to get out of jail early. He's gone for parole. Let's hope he doesn't get it, but we'll talk about that next. More prison early release. Stay where you are.
To be here with you all in the heart of Manchester this Friday morning at the end of, you know, a fairly big week is just everything to me.
If I have to watch one more saccharine video of him pulling a pint or talking about his favourite bar snacks with John Healey, whatever mawkish, minimalising, utterly moronic, stupid bit of social media tidbit they're trying to throw to us, you know, the sugar to help the Marxist medicine go down.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
If you search your memory, you'll remember this. This is a guy who's in jail now. His name is Mick Philpott. He hatched this master plan to set fire to his semi-detached home in Derby, he had 17 kids, used to boast about how much money he made on benefits. He was one of those big benefits cheats who made a thing of it and used to do features in the papers and boast on telly about how much money the welfare system was giving him. Anyway, he had this plan. He was involved in some custody battle with some ex-lover, and he had a plan to set fire to their house, blame it on her, and then when the house went up, he would bravely go into the inferno and rescue his children, and then he'd be hailed as a national hero. Trouble is, it went kind of wrong, and 6 of his children died in the blaze. Let's go over to my guest. He's Luke Gittos, lawyer and writer. Welcome, Luke.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. Before I get your view on this, let's remind ourselves of this guy, Mick Philpott. This is back before he was found to be the culprit, the arsonist who started this fire. Here he is on television crying crocodile tears, begging for people to come forward and help the police with their inquiry into a murder of children that he committed. So let's watch this.
And of course, it's the 4 firemen, the police, the ambulances, the doctors, the nurses, literally everybody who tried to help save our children. They couldn't. Excuse me a minute. Have you had enough? We've decided that through our son Dwayne, unfortunately the last one to pass away, that we're going to donate his organs to save another child, which is what we want, because if you can save another child, that makes us happy. It takes a bit of the pain away.
Well, look, he actually was found to be him, of course. His plan was just sort of moronic and ridiculous. It was all about getting a bigger house, framing some ex-lover with whom he was having a custody battle, and then also to emerge as a hero, because he would plunge into the flames and bring his children out to safety. He fancied being hailed a wonderful person by the entire nation, but of course it went wrong, and there you see him crying for the 6 children that he effectively killed. He got 17 years for manslaughter. He's now going before the parole board and wants to get out early. I don't think we should let him out. I mean, I think, you know, we're learning from the early prison release scheme that just letting people out, you know, sentencing people to serious sentences for very, very severe crimes and then letting them out after a couple of years, that is not a system that the people of this country want. So I don't think we should let this guy out, do you?
No, I don't. The judge in sentencing Mick Philpott, I had a look at the sentencing remarks that are available online, and he said it clearly, you know, the only thing that ever mattered to Philpott was Philpott himself. He lived his entire life entirely concerned with himself. He'd already been convicted of attempted murder and Section 18, wounding with intent, against a previous girlfriend. He had a history of controlling the women he was with repeatedly in almost every relationship that he'd ever had. Repeated examples of violence, a previous conviction, as I've said, for an extremely serious violent offence against a previous partner. This is not someone who should be considered so quickly for release. And I think we need to take this moment to just recognise that there's been a number of these stories recently, over recent months, where the public are left thinking, how is the justice system bringing about these kinds of outcomes? How is it that someone like Mick Philpott can be eligible for parole so quickly? The problem in this case is that he was convicted of manslaughter. That means that he avoided the mandatory life sentence that would have followed if he'd been convicted of murder. The reason he was convicted of manslaughter was because, as stupid and ridiculous and dangerous as his plan was, there was no evidence that he had the intention to kill 6 children for precisely the reasons you suggest. This was all in the context of a custody battle in which he was blaming, he wanted to blame the fire on another woman and win the children back. But The point here is that the judges are repeatedly hamstrung by the law around sentencing. So we have judges that are repeatedly saying, look, I'd like to be able to pass a higher sentence, but my powers are capped under statute law, meaning the law set by Parliament. And I think we need to let judges have a bit more discretion in how they sentence and give them the power to pass sentences that the public might expect. I think in this case, someone who has been previously convicted of attempted murder and goes on to do something like this, the idea that they would be eligible for release after a period of, 7.5 years, I think would strike most members of the public as completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now,
Sorry,
yeah.
I was going to say, I mean, effectively, I mean, as you say, technically the offence was manslaughter, but effectively this guy killed 6 of his own children. As you say, we can't be letting him out after 7 years because, you know, we're now, of course, caught in an epidemic of early release because of this government initiative, because the cells are too crowded, the jails are too crowded. But it does, you know, that is a practical reality, but it brings into focus, it has sharpened the public mind to the business of sentencing. And people are seeing with these early releases, and Mick Philpott's will be included if he gets out, that this is not justice. 6 children dying and a guy doing 7 years behind bars. That is not what the public deserve. That is not justice. We are doing this. It's not just Mick Philpott. There are loads of Mick Philpotts out there getting away with very serious crimes with relatively lenient sentences. And we've got to raise our game, haven't we, Luke?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've used a really key word there, which is justice. Now, when you get lawyers on to talk about big cases, what they'll normally do is simply say, well, the sentencing guidelines were followed, which are the guidelines that judges have to follow when setting their sentences. They'll say that the law was followed. They'll say that the right process was followed in order to reach this sentence. But yet we're left with this sense that justice hasn't been done. And justice can be something that's quite difficult to define, but we also know it when we see it. We know that something has gone wrong in this case, that this man is able to apply for parole so quickly. And that's our sense of injustice, that sense of you know, an eye for an eye, the idea that you serve the amount of time that's commensurate with what you have done. So that's why I make this point that the law needs to get out of the way of the judges passing sentences that are just, and just in a way which reflects something about our common humanity, not the law. You know, we want to get back to some sense that the judges get to decide what we would want as the public rather than what the law tells them to do. And you know, you see this frustration come out time and again in the sentencing process, in sentencing up and down the country. You do hear judges saying, you know, they are statutorily told, they're told by the law what they can and cannot consider in the sentencing process. And that can lead them to results which they as members of our judiciary may find are too lenient. And that's a real problem. And I think we can just afford to give judges a bit more scope to say, look, try and reflect as best you can what the public would expect in a case like this. Bring the public into the sentencing process as much as you can. And I think the more we can do that, the more we can give the public confidence that the justice system is operating in the way that it should do.
Exactly right, Luke. I mean, British justice used to be the envy of the world. We're letting that slip, and we should grab it back right now while we still can. Luke, great to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Luke Gitos there, lawyer and writer. I'm going to play you that guy, that excuse for a human being, Mick Philpott. This is before it was discovered that he was responsible for the death of 6 of his own children. He had 17 kids. He used to boast about it. He used to go on telly in the newspapers. You know, I'm the biggest benefits cheat in the country. I've got 17 kids and I'm getting 120 grand a year. You know, that kind of stuff. But then he hatched this bizarre, moronic plan, set fire to his current house, which would get back at some previous lover with whom he was having a custody battle. Also, he figured it would get him a bigger house. He wanted a bigger house. And also, he'd get the chance to leap into the inferno, into the flames, and save his children. And everybody would say, Mick Philpott, what a guy, what a hero. In fact, he killed his kids. Here he is.
And of course, it's the 4 firemen the police, the ambulances, the doctors, the nurses, literally everybody who tried to help save our children, they couldn't. Excuse me a minute. We've decided that through our son Dwayne, unfortunately the last one to pass away, that we're going to donate his organs to save another child, which is what we want, because if you can save another child, that makes us happy. It takes a bit of the pain away.
Oh, look how dry his face is. He killed that kid. He killed 6 of his own children by setting fire to his own house. And then he did that and pretended crocodile tears for the public. Oh, my poor children. He killed them. And now he wants to get out of jail early. Do you think he deserves to? Why is it even being considered? You know what the parole board are like? They'll probably let him out. They mustn't, must they? Let's keep that guy in jail. What do you think? Mick Philpott. Should he be released or should he be kept in jail? What is going on? Why are we even considering letting animals like this out of jail? 03444 991,000. Get on the phone. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Also, want to hear from you about the migrant crisis. Why hasn't the Prime Minister said a single dicky bird, not a word, yet about the migrant crisis? Nearly 1,000 migrants have come across the Channel illegally from France since he became Prime Minister. Not a word has passed his lips. Each one of those 1,000 migrants is going to cost us £40,000 over the next year. And so the crisis escalates. It's costing us a fortune. It's a cultural disaster. We've got to stop it. He hasn't even mentioned it. How's he going to stop it? How's he going to deal with it? Does he have any plans? Don't know. He hasn't said. That's an outrage, isn't it? Let me know what you think. 03444 991,000. Get on the phone. Let's talk. Good to talk on Talk. Let's go to break. And next up, we are going to return to Planet Looney and talk about a taxpayer-funded exhibition that goes some way towards proving that teddy bears can be trans too. This is taxpayer funded. Trans teddy bears. They do exist, apparently. We are going to talk about this next. I'm serious, because it's your money that's being wasted, proving that trans teddy bears do exist. That's what you want your taxpayer money spent on, isn't it? That kind of scientific evidence that there are trans teddy bears. Honestly, what is going on, folks? What is going on? We'll talk about that next. 03444 499 Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, folks. Well, get yourself up to or down to, considering where you live, the Melton Carnegie Museum in Melton Mowbray. There you can find the Villiers Revealed project. It's a Care Bears exhibition. It's been developed by the Culture Leicestershire group, and it highlights Care Bears That's those toys that were invented in the early 80s. Care Bears, it highlights Care Bears as a symbol for the LGBTQA plus community, and says that some of these bears are indeed transgender or gender fluid. Well, to talk about this highly sane innovation in Leicestershire, let's talk to political commentator Benedict Spence. Well, this is about the fifth story today, Benedict, where I have said, stop the world, I need to get off. It's gone insane. So, as I say, this is a serious exhibition paid for by taxpayers because it's funded by the Arts Council England, so we're paying for it. It's a bunch of teddy bears. Just to explain this, the exhibition Bumph says that one bear, for example, he's called Funshine, has been variously depicted as male and female since the launch of the toys, and could be considered, this is all written down, a symbol for the LGBTQA plus community and a role model. Having a character like Funshine who transitions with positive characterization sends a strong message to those going through a similar change. It's a teddy bear.
Yeah.
I mean, where do we start? This is our money. This is our money.
It's our money, and it's what makes this all slightly more maddening is it almost feels as though in the sort of at the height of culture and the height of politics, it does feel as though we've already crested the wave of the trans and LGBTQ plus XYZ mania. Most people are aware of this now. They understand that it is nuts. They're not happy with it. You're already seeing politicians and media figures who a couple of years ago would have probably been very in favor of this sort of thing, rowing back on it. People feel a lot more sort of empowered to talk out about it. You see this especially online. There's a growing cohort of women in particular who feel absolutely no qualms at all with turning around and saying, actually, this stuff is nuts. Why are we going along with it? But at a sort of a lower level, that change in the culture has still not filtered through to other great swathes of what you might call the sort of the artocracy, if you like. So, you're talking about a project here, an exhibition that has been funded by the Arts Council. So it's still a couple of years behind the rest of the world in terms of what's relevant. And, as you say right there, talking about children's teddy bears and how they have positive characteristics and positive stories about transitioning, which is helpful, quote, to people sort of going through those feelings. Toddlers, in other words. It's nuts. And it's just a real, it reaffirms what we've all had to go through and what we all recognize, which is that if you give these lunatics an inch, they'll just absolutely go to town on everything. Everyone understands there's no such thing as a transitioning toddler. There cannot be such a thing as a transitioning toddler. And yet, here we are, you and me and everybody listening, paying for an exhibition that says, look at this bear that has no gender.
Yeah, you say quite rightly, Benedict, there's no such thing as a transitioning toddler. Still less is there such a thing as a transitioning teddy bear. And yet, the creator of this exhibition, a guy called John Slay, said that this platform was chosen because some people aren't ready to or able to access queer spaces physically. He goes on to say that these bears disrupt gender norms through their expression of their true selves, but are accepted regardless. They don't express their true selves. They're teddy bears. They don't actually exist, John. Sorry to disappoint you. I mean, this is just, this is insanity.
Yeah, it's why we have to call them what they are, which is lunatics. And you wouldn't put lunatics in charge of almost anything. Why it is that they're in charge, therefore, of a children's toy exhibition, you might think that that was about their intellectual level, but they're even managing to mess that up quite clearly. I mean, this exhibition, there's also signs and a little explanatory bit about the role of the British Empire in suppressing queer and trans identities, and I've written it down here. I mean, that colonialism disproportionately erased fluidity in gender and sexuality, particularly among black, brown, and indigenous people of colour. Again, It's a teddy bear exhibition.
Did colonialism disproportionately erase fluidity and gender and sexuality in the teddy bear community as well?
Who knows? Maybe this is the great oppressed community all along that we never knew about. Maybe this is maybe finally
we're onto something here, Benedict. We're onto something.
Of the British Empire, the Black Hole of Calcutta was stuffed to the brim with teddy bears. Whoever knew? Yeah, it was news to me, but maybe this is what we needed to learn. But honestly,
I mean, on a wider note, Benedict, I've been covering this other story today. I mean, you know, we say this constantly because every single day in every single way, this madness seems to get worse. I've been covering the story today of the... you know, I mean, there's this lunacy about teddy bears, and I mean, when is it going to stop? I mean, how can we put a stop to this utter madness that costs us money in the end? You know, what can we do?
Well, I mean, the really frustrating thing about the fact that it costs us money is the amount of money that is frittered away by successive governments, including the Conservatives. We need to remember that always, that they gave huge amounts of money. More than half of all money given to charitable organisations in this country is donated by the government. Not by the public, by the government taking your money and saying, well, we think this is what you should be giving your money to, so we're going to do it on your behalf. That's how organisations like this manage to get funding, because some utter half-wit of an MP goes, oh, I've got to be kind to a marginalised community, so I'm going to approve this grant that some activist civil servant has gone, Minister, maybe you want to consider supporting this cause. That's how these things, and it's also the case for refugee NGOs and things like that, that's how they end up getting their money, until a government is prepared to come along and say, this is a colossal waste and a betrayal of the taxpayers' trust. That's not going to change. But what I would say is, one thing that does happen in the short term is people continuing to raise the alarm about how stupid and dangerous a lot of this stuff is, so that those MPs who are currently in position with the levers of power perhaps think twice before they actually go ahead and approve these decisions.
Well, yeah, we need some sanity imposed on the insanity. I mean, as I say, we're now talking about trans teddy bears, you know, being hailed as heroes for living their lives as they want to, by alleged sane and reasonable people to whom we give taxpayers money. Kate Osborne, the Labour MP, responding to the maniac, the Islamic terrorist driving his car into the gay pride paraders in Berlin, Kate Osborne said that this was Reform UK's fault.
Yeah, but that's
along with GB News, spouting nonsense about attacks, vilifying the LGBTQ plus community. So she thinks that the people who caused the Berlin gay pride attack were Reform UK. So what I'm saying is we have a narrative that seems to exist amongst these idiot left-wingers that is just, it's fantasy land, it's nonsense, it insults your intelligence.
Yeah, I mean, once upon a time, people used to refer to the Labour Party as student politics, and it's not that anymore, if we're being honest. It's down to sort of primary school level in terms of you point your finger at something you don't like and you go, fascist, because everyone knows that the fascists are the bad guys.
Nazi, racist.
Yeah, and it'll magically go away. The problem with that is, of course, it's massively damaging. If that's what you think you can get away with, it means that there's no possibility for any kind of public discourse because everything gets shut down. Civilization only works if adults tell children no. And a really large part of the problem in this country is that people in power have lost the ability to say no to people screaming and stamping their feet. If you solved that, I think you'd solve rather a lot of problems in that country. But until we get to that point, we're going to have to keep on putting up with nonsense like exhibitions about trans teddy bears.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to have an exhibition of trans teddy bears and say that they're heroes of the trans community, living their lives as they want to, fine, but don't use my money to do it. Unbelievable. Benedict, great to have you on the show, as always. Benedict Spence there, talking a lot of common sense in a world that makes no sense, a world that spends taxpayers' taxpayers' money on an exhibition of teddy bears that apparently celebrate the trans community. These teddy bears who live their lives as they want to. Heroes of trans rights. They're teddy bears. God's sake, what is going on, folks? 03444 991,000. Give me a call. Let me know what you think of your taxpayers' money being spent on trans teddy bears. You hardly know where to start, do you? 03444 991,000. Your calls when we come back. Let's talk.
Jamila Jamil, who has made her career out of calling people out on literally anything with the faintest whiff of controversy, only to find herself in controversy time and time again, whether it's feuds with celebrities, social media rows, accusations. She even disowned her entire family, claiming that they are fat-phobic. Well, if your worldview boils down to 70 million people being villains because of where they are born, that is not courageous. It's actually very lazy and entitled.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
By the way, I'm still looking for explanations. What the hell is number 10 North for? What is it about? Yeah, it's going to cost Andy Burnham about 40 grand every weekend to go there, plus a load of civil servants, security people, everybody schlepping up the motorway back down. He's probably flying there by prime ministerial jet. And what's it for? It's about power flowing down to places like Birmingham. What does that even mean? Power in every postcode. What? What is it for? You know, it's like sort of taking an office that's doing a job and saying, right, well, we'll take half the office and we'll put it 200 miles further north. We'll keep the office in the south doing the same thing, and we'll send half the staff up the north to do the same thing from the north. Won't make any difference, just make it a little bit more bureaucratically difficult. Make it a little bit more difficult to govern the country, but at least Andy gets to spend the weekend at home. It's a vanity project. What is it for? Do you know? How will it improve government? Any ideas? 03444 991,000. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Jill in Cornwall. Hi, Jill. What would you like to say?
Oh, gosh, Kev, I don't know.
Where do you start? Where do you start?
Do you know, what is the point of a justice system anymore? What's the point?
I'll tell you where I think it's getting fundamentally serious. And that is this: if you're not punishing rapists, murderers, paedophiles, if you're not punishing them properly, but under your justice system, you are not a serious country. If you're sending a man who raped a woman, who forced a woman to have sex with him, physically, violently, if you're sending that person to jail for 2-3 years, you are not a serious country, and you are not thinking of that man's victim. So that's what worries me, is we are descending into the wonderful, less than wonderful world of the banana republic. These sentences are not the sentences of a serious country, Jill.
Yeah, we don't have a justice system. I'm sorry. But when you think that murderers can be out of prison after 4 years, you know, I mean, this is someone's life they've taken. And they're kept in prison, fed, given a phone, all the extras that a lot of people struggle to survive on, and they get them, and then they're let out after 3 years. I can't see the point. I can't see the point anymore of a justice system or a judge. What is the blinking point?
And by the way, Jill, what's Burnham said? Here's what's worrying about me. This is very, very serious. Now, the only thing he said about early prison release, in fairness to him, is I'm going to put it on pause. So at least he's recognised and acknowledged that this is an issue that we need something done about. At least he's doing something on this. Well, at least he's put everything on hold. But you know, there are lots of other serious issues that he doesn't seem to be doing anything about. I mean, the migrant crisis is seriously back in business. Nearly 1,000 illegal migrants crossed the Channel over the last week. This guy Burnham hasn't even mentioned the migrant crisis at all, ever, once, since he's been Prime Minister for the past week. That's really worrying. If he's going to be the kind of leader who ducks the serious issues because they don't make him look very good, then we're in even more trouble than I thought we already were.
We've got a justice system that doesn't justify how they deal with people who break the law, seriously break the law. You know, you've got murderers going to prison for 4 years or 5 years or whatever, and then and they're let out after a couple, and then you've got someone who puts a message or a word on the internet criticising something, and they get 2 years. I mean, that is not justice, and I'm sorry, but these people are being paid for jobs they don't do anymore because there is no point at all in having all these judges, all these courts, building more prisons. What for? If they're going to let them out after a couple of years.
If only they were building more prisons, Jill, that's the problem. They're not. And therefore, you know, he's put this prison release scheme on hold, but we're told by November the 1st, the prisons will literally be bursting at the seams if he doesn't do anything about them. So it's all very well to say it's on hold, but what happens next? What happens next generally with this guy? Who knows, Jill? Good call, as always. Thank you very much, Jill. Jill in Cornwall, one of our regulars. Lots still to come. Stay exactly where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In 20-25 minutes or so, we'll talk to royal biographer Angela Levin about Meghan Markle's latest announcements on the public stage, in which her edition of MasterChef Australia has hit the airwaves, during which she magnanimously told everyone, "Oh, don't call me Duchess." I'm not sure what they did call her. I got a few names, but it's not Duchess isn't one of them. She revealed, they're talking about cooking, obviously, and she talked about she had to cater, when she's cooking, cater to lots of different palates, because, of course, she's got the British element with her husband, Harry. And she said, Harry, being British, being English, he likes meat, yeah, I get that, potatoes, yeah, get that, and cream sauce. What? What's cream sauce? That's not British, you know, meat, potatoes and cream sauce. What is cream sauce with meat and potatoes? Anyone got any idea? Doesn't sound very British to me. 03444991000. What nonsense is Ms Markle talking now? More excitingly, in the studio for her first ever appearance on this show, I hope it's the first of many, she's an associate at the Adam Smith Institute, a high flyer at Oxford University, Harriet Dolby. Hi, Harriet.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Good to have you. Let's go through some of the big stories of the day. Well, look, you're a student, watching from the dreaming spires of Oxford. What's your verdict? What's your school report on Andy Burnham so far after 1 week?
I have to say I'm not convinced. He talks a lot of talk. He puts out this romantic picture of devolution and being the king of the north, but honestly I think he's just going to be another Labour leader who just spends and spends and expects everyone else to foot the bill.
Exactly right. I mean, he's given his first serious interview after giving alleged interviews to Labour fanboy Andrew Marr and the ludicrous footballer Gary Lineker. But he's now, at long last, given what you might kind of vaguely classify as a serious, semi-serious interview to the BBC's Laura Kunsberg. That's been refrigerated until tonight at 8 p.m. on a Panorama special. But the little clips that they have put out, in one of the clips, disarmingly, he refuses to commit to a 3% of GDP defence spending by 2030. This is, in essence, the pledge that Keir Starmer made. More interestingly, it's the pledge on which the former Defence Secretary John Healey resigned because he didn't think the money was forthcoming. He didn't think that Starmer or the then Chancellor Rachel Reeves were giving enough money. So we've now got the new Prime Minister, we've got a new Defence Secretary, West Streeting. Burnham is now refusing to commit to that 3% GDP spending on defence by 2030. That's a commitment to NATO and, arguably more importantly, a commitment to Donald Trump. That's extremely worrying, isn't it?
It's incredibly worrying, but it's not really surprising. I mean, Starmer and Burnham alike are making Britain look weak on the international stage, and I think Burnham has got scared about the idea of having to spend more money on defence when really he wants to spend more money on his pet projects back in the north. Exactly
right. I mean, you know, we can go through some of the pledges he's made so far. £850 million to take the VAT off our energy bills. That will save us all a cool 86p a week each. The £2 cap on bus fares will cost £450 million. His tax break that he's offering pubs and hospitality venues will cost £100 million. Then he's got a potentially like a £50 billion council house building pledge. None of these things are funded. So right off the bat last week, he announced around about £2 billion worth of generous policies that he hasn't funded. He doesn't seem to have a penny to actually pay for them with. This is, classic Labour fantasy politics. The magic money tree will provide. Well, it won't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Burnham just really wants to be liked and really wants to be popular. And I think this is just an exemplification of him doing that. I mean, we know what he needs to do. He needs to cut welfare benefits. That's really what needs to happen. But I don't think he'll make the difficult choices. I think he just wants to keep spending more and more.
Yeah, I mean, but he literally is going to hit a brick wall in terms of the reality of getting this money. When he initially, about this time last week, wasn't it? When he announced, I'm going to, right off the bat, take the VAT off your very expensive energy bills. That'll save you all 86p a week each. How excited were we? And then people go, well, how are you going to pay for that? £850 million. So that's easy. I'm scrapping the digital ID scheme, so I'm going to save the money there.
Which
Darren Jones, the Prime Minister's former executive secretary, and Cabinet Secretary, of course, announced, we actually hadn't funded that scheme, so there's no money to fund.
Yeah.
So, generally speaking, you've got more than £2 billion, arguably a lot more than that worth of policies already announced, not a penny to pay for them. This is worrying.
Absolutely, and it's just going to get worse when there's talk about the wealth tax that might happen and incoming more and more taxes that are potentially incoming, which is just going to scare away those high net worth individuals who are basically funding all of these projects anyway. Yeah,
indeed. And the other thing that we've been focusing on today, which I think is also worrying, is that this guy, Burnham, so far, and I think tonight's interview will continue the syndrome, has not yet once mentioned the migrant crisis. Now, over the past week since he became King Andy, when he ascended to the throne unhindered by even a hint of democracy, the number of migrants that have crossed the Channel, illegal foreigners, nearly 1,000. Each of these will cost us £40,000 a year to keep. They'll already be on £50 a week benefits, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers, free lots of other stuff. They'll be staying in 4-star hotels, getting free food. So they're already on the gravy chain. This is a serious, clear and present danger to this country. We also learned over the weekend that the police believe, no doubt accurately, that significant numbers of Iranian agents are disguising themselves as asylum seekers to come across on these small boats to Britain. So there's a very dangerous security issue here as well. This is the number one issue that concerns British people, the migrant crisis. We have a Prime Minister, a new Prime Minister, who has not deigned to even mention it once yet. I mean, that's more than worrying. That's an abrogation of duty, if you ask me.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, if you're going to completely ignore what the electorate is concerned about, how are you expecting to win the next general election whenever he wants to decide to call it? I think it's probably due to his Labour backbenchers. Lots of them are scared to talk about the actual problem at hand. Many of their constituencies are on marginal grounds with potential Islamist candidates second as well. So I guess there is a concern for lots of Labour backbenchers that they won't win their seats if they do the right thing and try and push the Labour government towards those policies.
Let me ask you this. If you went back to Oxford University and you went to some sort of meeting and you announced loudly, hey, you know that that guy who drove into the gay pride parade in Berlin, you know that he was an Islamic terrorist. How do you think that would go down? Because that is the truth. the German police said this is an Islamic terrorist. This atrocity is the work of an Islamic terrorist. No politician has mentioned that yet. They're just saying, oh, this is an attack on our values, freedom and liberty. It cannot be allowed to happen, blah, blah, blah. Neither Ursula von der Leyen, West Streeting, Rob Jetten, the Dutch leader, and all of them all coming out with all these platitudes, attack on our freedom, this kind of horror mustn't be allowed, we condemn it utterly. None of them mentioning what it actually was, Islamic terrorism. So this failure to confront the reality of what's happening, I think, is a serious, serious scourge. What would it be like if you went up to Oxford and said, right, let me tell you who did this?
I don't think I'd be very popular, I have to say. I think I'd be told I was a liberal, I was against British values. But some people might call me a racist for making those assumptions, even though it's true. And I think this is the problem. If institutions like Oxford are producing students who have those views en masse, then why are we surprised that our politicians are also going to say the same thing?
Absolutely. What is the atmosphere like at Oxford, generally speaking? I mean, you know, a lot of universities are not exactly the havens of free speech these days. In other words, if you speak your mind and you happen to be from the right, you'll discover that your opinions are not required.
Yes, I mean, I tell the story of I was sort of outed as a conservative and on the right 3 days into my time at Oxford, and I think that quickly separated who I wanted to be my friends and who I did not want to be my friends. There's many people who won't speak to me because of my views. Even though I don't ram them down people's throats, I only talk to people about politics if they want to. And that's incredibly frustrating because it's a really one-sided conversation then. If everyone is saying the same thing and agreeing with each other, how are we ever going to have a debate?
What's your feelings about net zero, or nut zero as I call it? Ed Miliband, the former net zero secretary, has handed down the reins to the even more frightening Miata Farnbele, who's more of a zealot than even he was. But he has announced that he's going to base his new role, he's going to revolve his new role, Foreign Secretary, around the alleged climate change emergency and also foreign aid. And that's one thing. So although Burnham has struggled to sort of really talk about money generally, the one concrete amount of money they've managed to find so far, this government, no concrete amounts found anywhere else, but they have 100% found £10 billion to give to foreign countries, the foreign aid budget. I mean, this twisted thinking, I mean, how do they think that's going to play? You know, if I was a politician, I'd turn around and say, well, I've got this 10 billion quid, or I've got here, I've been told to spend £18 billion, £18.3 billion on foreign countries. I've decided not to do that. I'm going to spend it on British people. Doesn't Andy Burnham realise that would be popular?
I mean, I think he probably does, but part of it is this idea that Britain is the ruler of the world and we should be helping all our foreign, all these people abroad. But we're not. We're an embarrassment on the world stage. You've got Ed Miliband as the Foreign Secretary. I mean, he's not respected by Trump. He's not respected by so many foreign leaders, particularly because of his net zero views. So I think that makes the foreign aid plans, if that's supposed to make us more impressive, completely farcical. Yeah,
indeed. Are you from the north or the south, Harriet?
I'm from the south.
Yeah, I thought you might be. I am too. I once went to Palmer's Green, that's in the north of London, but that was too far north for me. Never again, never again. But seriously, what do you make of number 10 North? Jokes aside, you can make lots of jokes about it, but I've been putting the serious question out to the audience, to all my guests. What is it about? What is it for? Do you know?
I think it's just to crown Andy Burnham King of the North ×2, I guess. It's giving him a place to have his crown. But I think it's really just a pet project. I don't think it's anything particularly serious. I mean, it puts some of his comms people further towards the north, which might help with some of his flashy social media videos. But really, I don't think it makes a significant difference, and I think it's just a pledge that won't actually enact anything meaningfully when it comes to devolution.
Yeah, so, but okay, so it's a vanity project by somebody who I think is emerging as quite a narcissist. His little narcissistic vanity project is going to cost us a lot of money. I mean, you know, when he went up there at the weekend, he flew to Glasgow for the Commonwealth Games on the prime ministerial jet. I estimate that journey probably cost about 15-20 grand. Then he flew back to Manchester on the prime ministerial jet. That would have been about 10 grand. So you got 30 grand. Then I'm assuming he flew back this morning or last night on the prime ministerial jet. Each one of these journeys is going to come in 15-20 grand. Not to mention all the civil servants are going to have to follow him around, the security people. And civil servants, by the way, Whitehall staff are being offered generous relocation packages to move up to North so they can work in number 10 Downing Street or number 10 North. And meanwhile, so many of us are thinking, well, what's it for? He said he said stuff like, it's going to bring power to every postcode, and it means that power will pour out of number 10 North towards places like Birmingham. What does that mean? What does it mean?
I mean, it's a complete joke, and it's a complete waste of money, really. I don't see how just having another set of officers further north is going to make any difference on the policy.
But it's going to cost us.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I think that's what's going to make the public angry. If they see how much it's going to cost, and they see where that money could be spent better elsewhere, they're going to get annoyed.
And going back to him not saying a damn thing about the migrant crisis, you can actually, this is statistically a fact, that if you take the top 20 issues that concern British people, the number one issue is the migrant crisis. A lot of old-fashioned politicians go, it's the economy, actually, it's the cost of living. It's not true. I mean, obviously, they're very high up the economy, but the number one issue that concerns British voters is the migrant crisis. He doesn't mention that, but he focuses all his attention, keeps telling us it's going to be great. There's going to be a mayor in every postcode, devolution, villages ruling themselves, you know, and so on and so forth. So if you take statistically the issue that concerns Brits the most, that's the migrant crisis. And at the very bottom of the list, the issue that concerns British people the least, statistically, is devolution. They couldn't give a damn about it, because we look around us, we say, hey, that devolution of Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, that didn't work. Oh, that devolution of all the big cities, that didn't work. It just turns this country into an ungovernable mosaic. It's a political, again, vanity scheme, if you ask me, that real people could care less about.
Yeah, and exactly. And I think the fact that more and more Labour mayors are being elected is probably why they might be putting more mayors in. You know, you want to have a stronger network of support across the country might be part of that factor as well. I
think you're exactly right. But he keeps looking in the camera and saying, oh, devolution, so many mayors, power in every postcode. Everybody at home going, whoa, I don't care. You know, solve the migrant crisis. How about that? But here we are, Burnham's Britain, Harriet. Welcome to it. Hope you enjoy it. Well, listen, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
You come in and see us again very soon. That was our newbie, Harriet Dolby. She's an associate of the Adam Smith Institute and currently studying for her degree at Oxford University, where she's a former president of the Conservative Association, but she got found out. Was in big trouble. Can't be that in Oxford, can you? No, Harriet, thank you so much. Harriet Dolby there. Next up, let's talk to royal biographer Angela Levin about the latest happenings on Planet Meghan. All of that next. Stay tuned. See
Jamila Jamil, who has made her career out of calling people out on literally anything with the faintest whiff of controversy, only to find herself in controversy time and time again, whether it's feuds with celebrities, social media rows, accusations. She even disowned her entire family, claiming that they are fat-phobic. Well, if your worldview boils down to 70 million people being villains because of where they are born, that is not courageous. It's actually very lazy and entitled.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're just waiting to get hold of royal biographer Angela Levin. In the meantime, should we take a quick call? We will get hold of someone in just a second. Let me know what you think. I'm going to take a lot of your calls after we've spoken to Angela, so get on the phone now. 03444991000. Still trying to find out what the hell number 10 North is for, apart from wasting a lot of money and feeding narcissist King Andy's ever-growing massive ego. What is number 10 for? Why won't this guy mention the migrant crisis? Isn't it a scandal that he won't mention the issue that concerns British people the most? It's because he's got no answers. He's got no solution. Mind you, he doesn't seem to have any solutions to anything. Let me know what you think about that. 03444991000. What is number 10 for? And what will Andy Burnham do about it? 03444991000. What will he do about the migrant crisis, and why won't he mention it? It's a disgrace. What should he do, and why won't he mention it? 03444991000. While we wait to get hold of Angela, let's have a quick chat to Brian in Hertfordshire. Hi, Brian.
Hiya. How you going? You all good?
I'm good, yeah. What would you like to say, mate?
I'm a logistical man. I look at things from farther away rather than what's happening right now. I'm just trying to get a hand on this Mr. Burnham.
We all are, Brian. We all are.
But he spent a year planning to do this. What's the goal for 2 years? Because that's all he's got left before a general election.
I tell you what I think it is, Brian, and I don't think he hasn't formulated his plans at all. But I think he's got some sort of socialist master plan. He's going to lure us into his left-wing vision for our 1970s socialist-style Labour future. And that's what it is. He's achieved power and he's going to force it on us. But I don't think he's got any clear vision of how he's going to do any of this.
A bit like you, I think he's just waiting for little pods of ideas to throw out. Right, what can we give them this month?
Yep.
What can we give them next month? You know,
throw us a bit of thin gruel while bringing about his socialist master plan.
Yeah, by the time you'd have had 50 policies, all done next to nothing, but he's saved the country, you know?
Well, that's what he'll say, but he's going to bankrupt the country at this point. Well, I don't think he can bankrupt the country because all these policies he keeps announcing, these expensive policies, he literally has not got the money for. So it's all very well saying, oh, I'm going to spend £850 million making your energy bills cheaper, but how can he afford it? You know, I like the sound of some of the things he's saying, but I also know he hasn't got the money for it. It's ridiculous.
But like all things that they offer us, they never happen until April next year. But taxes always happen instantly, don't they?
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. I mean,
we're not going to tell you about it. We've already got a plan to tax you for it, but don't worry about it. we will come begging and pleading, going, we really want to do these things, and we know you want them, but by the way, it's going to cost you 20 pence in a pound everywhere.
Yeah. That's what we've got to wait for, Brian. Sure as night follows day, he will be imposing. He'll be imposing tax hikes on us. Sure as night follows day, I guarantee it. So that's what we have to wait for next. Something to look forward to. Brian, really good call. Thanks for ringing. Brian in Hertfordshire. I'll tell you what we'll do now. We'll go to break, and then when we come back, we'll talk to Angela Levin, royal biographer, about the latest goings-on on Planet Meghan.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to royal biographer Angela Levin. Welcome, Angela.
Hello.
Good to have you on the show, as always.
Nice to see you.
Always a pleasure. Now, Meghan has been on MasterChef Australia. We know about this because she filmed it during that tawdry tour down under, where she went round hawking the dresses she was wearing on a fashion website, making money as she walked. It was not a pretty sight. But anyway, she went on to record a MasterChef Australia. Let's take a look at a couple of clips, because they're now available. They've been screened. Here is the first section of that show featuring Meghan.
It's time for a 30-minute time call. Fun.
I think you should do it.
Can I?
I think you should.
Can I tell them personally?
Oh, no, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Okay. Let's make it personal. I don't like to yell. Here we go. Vinny?
Yes.
30-minute time call. I just like using really pure natural herbs and spices. You know, again, if you can pull fresh herbs like... Do you say herbs or herbs here?
We say herbs.
You
Please
do?
keep saying herbs.
He's very elegant.
We've got another clip here. This was her speaking to number 10 News in Australia.
Food and cooking to me is really a love language. I think it's such a great way to connect. It's something that can feel sentimental and meaningful, and it's how I show my nurturing and love for my friends, family, and my kids.
How does she manage to speak such garbage about everything? This is the serious question I've got for you, Angela. In her interviews and in her utterings on MasterChef, she said, I have to cook for a number of palates because, of course, I've got the British palate to cater for, as in my British husband, Prince Harry. And then she said, so, of course, he likes meat, OK, fair enough, the British people like me. Potatoes, meat and potatoes, yeah, very British, very culinary boring. And then this bit. So I have to cook for the British palate, meat, potatoes and cream sauce. What is cream sauce? British people don't have cream sauce with meat and potatoes. I don't even know what it is. What's she talking about?
I tried to look it up just in case there was a way of explaining. It doesn't. She just wants to sound amazing and the only woman who is like her. One of the things I thought very funny indeed, and you helped me on this one, is that she absolutely shouted at the woman who was judging it. Made her very upset because she said, "This is for the royal, wonderful Meghan." You see, and she didn't want to be called Meghan. She didn't want to be called royal. She didn't want to be called Duchess, who was absolutely furious. Go back 4 months, and nobody was allowed in her home unless they called her Meghan, not Meghan, but Royal Meghan, and all the complicated things that she knew had to be aware of. And so she doesn't do it when you want to, and she does when you don't want to. So what do you think of that?
I mean, it's just Meghan, and I'm not sure. I mean, OK, this was filmed a couple of months ago when they were in Australia. But what we do know is that Meghan and Harry, but Meghan's increasingly worried about money due to the fact that in 2 days' time, on Wednesday, Mr. Justice Nicklin, the judge in the long-running case of Harry, Elton John, Liz Hurley, and all their celebrity pals, their long-running case against the Daily Mail, which they spectacularly, humiliatingly lost all 97 charges against the Mail of illegality, phone hacking, etc., thrown out by the judge. Well, that judge is currently sitting in judgment of who will pay for this extremely expensive 4-year case. Costs are said to amount to around about £50 million. Now, there's a few of them, but Harry is going to have to find a lot of money pretty damn quickly. And frankly, there's not a lot of money flowing into Montecito at the moment. Meghan's not at all pleased.
No, she won't be pleased. But if you think about how they're living, they're much more rich than you imagine. Because, you know, if you were going and you got to this, you owed £50 million, you're not going to buy a very nice home in Portugal, are you? You're going to be careful about that. You're not buying Meghan incredibly rich jewellery. I think that there's something wrong there, that they're not actually looking after their money. And I think in the end, they'll try and get the king to do it.
Yeah,
which I hope he doesn't.
I mean, meanwhile, as you say, or as you imply there, I mean, the sad irony is Harry's highly anticipated trip back to Britain, where we believe Meghan and the kids came for a little while to see the King, but they were always behind closed doors. But that entire trip in Harry's mind, a couple of weeks ago, he was here for about 6-7 days. I think Meghan and the kids only came for a day or two. But that entire trip in his mind was to repair the rift, the transatlantic rift between him, Meghan, and the rest of the royals over here, which, of course, was caused by them, the Sussexes, trashing the royal family to Oprah Winfrey in that TV interview in which they told 17 lies and accused the royal family of being racist, and also, of course, trashing the royal family incredibly in Harry's spiteful little book Spare. So that's why the royal family don't want to know about Harry and Meghan. So his mission to heal the rift was always a long shot, but ironically, it hasn't even gone any way towards thawing that Arctic divide. It's made it worse. It made it worse.
Well, they're not sensible. And Harry has never really had to be in charge of money. He was royal. How much he wanted, they would give him. He'd spend it. That's it. If he wanted to take loads out anyway, he could. But Meghan has just grabbed as much money as she could. But she's trying to be very, very nice to Harry now, which is unusual. But, you know, he burst into what she was doing, talking about her eating and the things she liked most. But they said, oh, look, it's my husband, my love. Hi, my love.
That's right, on the show, yeah.
You know, I'm very sorry to disturb you, says Harry. And said, no, it's wonderful. But nobody's going to do that. She would do, this is a game, because she would have been furious, as any woman would be furious if her husband turned up when they're talking about food that they're enjoying very much. You know, it's a nonsense. So I think she's just trying to say how wonderful he is. and that comes to where the meal is, of something nobody's ever heard of.
Exactly
And the
right.
children.
Meat, potatoes and cream sauce. What is that? What is that?
I don't know. Actually, I think it sounds revolting, doesn't it?
It really does. It sounds like a kind of weird amalgam of some American food and British food. It doesn't work. I've got some breaking news here, Angela. The thoughts of the Prince and Princess of Wales are, this is a quote, are with everyone affected by the devastating wildfires across France, Spain and the UK. William has said this on social media, adding that the blazes are a stark reminder of the challenges posed by an increasingly extreme climate. I mean, which I just pass on to you because it's literally just come up on the news agenda.
Yes.
But it just seems to me to illustrate how much more relevant William and Catherine are than those two losers over on the West Coast, Harry and Meghan. They're not central to the equation anymore, are they?
Oh, they're miles apart. I mean, Harry still seems to be a child, sticks his tongue out, says rude things, tells us that he's not very clean when he gets excited about something. I won't go into more than that, but, and William is very serious about the world and how it operates. And this is extremely dangerous, isn't it? I mean, it's scary, the flames and everything like that. And he would be there sort of talking about people and saying, this is why we must do X, Y, Z. I don't know how he decides to do these things, but he comes up with lots of ideas and he finds people who look for them too. So that's very good. Harry wants to be silly, turning up without being asked and saying, oh, hello, here I am.
Well, as far as I can work out, Angela, the problem with Harry, as you say, he's a man-child. He's an immature 41-year-old, a father of two, with the mind of a 12-year-old, to be honest with you.
Ooh,
and
as late as that.
And he hasn't got a job. He's got nothing to do in life. It's no good keep saying, oh, well, I'm organising the Invictus Games. We're all very much in favour of the Invictus Games. Excellent event for wounded veterans. Nothing bad about that. Good for you. It's an event that happens once every 2 years. It seems to be the only thing he does in life. He needs to find something to do with his empty existence, doesn't he?
Yes, he doesn't want to. He wants to come to London and go back to what he was doing before. And I don't think he can, because he still wants to do this half in, half out. So he'll do a job for his father or with his father, but then he will actually discuss it, and then Meghan will be making money out of something because of her royalty, which she might not like all of a sudden, but she is. And you can't do that. You can't do that. And he's just trying to make the king understand something that he shouldn't understand.
Do you think you know Harry, Angela? You spent you spent a year with him putting together your excellent biography. This is my theory. He's an entitled young thing, or youngish thing, who's never had too many people telling me he can't do this, he can't do that. He's never had that many people saying, nope, that's a no, you can't do that. He expects to be able to do everything that he wants to do. If he's told that he's not, he reacts extremely badly. So the Queen, the late great Queen Elizabeth II, before she died, made it clear to him very, very openly, you cannot be a half in, half out. You cannot be half royal, half not. You can't go to America and make money out of being royal and then come back here and, cut ribbons and open libraries. You just can't do that. You are banned. You are prohibited from that. And I think it's that prohibition, the fact that Her Majesty said no, that it has become his obsession, because he will not accept being told that what he wants he cannot have. So he's in the middle of this project to overturn his grandmother's most sacred, solemn wish that him and Meghan did not exploit the royal family by being half in, half out.
Yes, but the thing is, it's actually Meghan who does all the you've got to do this, you've got to do that. She's the one in charge. And she was absolutely furious when they did go and see Charles and the Queen just the other week, that they wouldn't let her do what she wanted. Now, she was boiling over because it's her, she's got to do that. But the Queen was there to stop any of that and listen to make sure what he said. And that's why she was there. She was there a long time ago as well, because she doesn't trust her at all. But to allow Harry to say something, she feels that he can take a lot out of his father because he loves him. He's a son.
Oh, sure, of course, yeah.
But he's trying to get a lot out of him. That's why he's doing so much dancing and nonsense, because he wants to get his father to do a lot, complaining that William doesn't do enough. But William does important things. He's not sort of taking tea or...
Yeah, well, William's forging the way he sees the royal family.
Yes.
He's forging the new direction for the royal family, and he's thinking about it, which is more than Harry ever does about anything, to be honest with you. Angela, great to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on. Always a pleasure. That is the brilliant Angela Levin, royal biographer, on the latest goings-on on Planet Meghan. She is on MasterChef Australia, making that traditional British dish that we all love here in Britain, don't we? Meat, potatoes and cream sauce. What is that? 03444991000. Serious breaking news here, folks. This is a big one. Nigel Farage has called for Zack Polanski, the Green Party leader, to be arrested, and Reform UK have filed an official police report against the Green Party leader for, quote, incitement to murder. It comes as Zack Polanski removed a post on social media featuring a man wearing a T-shirt calling for Nigel Farage to be beheaded. Serious story, that. So Polanski's taken that down, but what is he playing at? Nigel Farage calling for Zack Polanski to be arrested. Reform have filed an official police report against the Green Party leader for incitement to murder. Polanski removing that post featuring a man wearing a T-shirt calling for Nigel Farage to be beheaded. Big story, folks. We're going to go to break now. Back in a minute. Stay where you are.
Jamila Jamil, who has made her career out of calling people out on literally anything with the faintest whiff of controversy, only to find herself in controversy time and time again, whether it's feuds with celebrities, social media rows, accusations. She even disowned her entire family, claiming that they are fat-phobic. Well, if your worldview boils down to 70 million people being villains because of where they are born, that is not courageous. It's actually very lazy and entitled.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Going to go to the phones in a second, but once again, that breaking news. Nigel Farage has called for Zack Polanski to be arrested. And the Reform UK party has filed an official police report against the Green Party leader for, and I quote, incitement to murder. It comes as Zack Polanski has removed a post featuring a man wearing a T-shirt calling for Nigel Farage to be beheaded. What it is, it's this guy with a beard. He's got a T-shirt on with a big guillotine on it and saying, well, you know, we have plans for Nigel Farage. Green Party spokesman for England and Wales said, after attending a public event, Zack accepted a request to collaborate on a post with several images. Once this image was brought to his attention, he immediately unshared the post. He unequivocally does not support this type of dangerous message. Well, he's got form with this, hasn't he, old Polanski? He's forever liking, sharing, approving of social media posts that he subsequently says he doesn't know anything about. Well, Zack, you better raise your game. And if you're going to put your name to social media posts, you better know what they are. Not a bad idea. He has been reported to the police by Reform UK for incitement to murder. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Alan in Aberdeen. Hi, Alan.
Hiya, Kev.
All right.
How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, yeah.
Good. Yeah, it's these people are always trying to connect these attacks and terrorism and encouraging terrorism to the far right. Yet it's the far left that I see out in the streets in support of Islamic jihadist terrorism. It's the left that are now encouraging beheading of our politicians. And after Anne Whitcomb the other week, my God.
Well, let's put it this way, Alan. You know, these far-right terrorists that the authorities like to keep us in fear of, I mean, they pretty much don't exist. You know, the last far-right terrorist plot was a couple of weeks ago at a big Muslim event in Suffolk. 12 people arrested. The Prime Minister and the Home Secretary say, what a fantastic police operation to save lives. Fantastic. We've smashed this far-right terrorist plot. They had to release all 12 people who were arrested because there was no far-right terrorist plot. Despite the best efforts of the authorities, of our left-wing politicians, far-right terrorism is not really the problem. The problem is Islamic terrorism, as the Germans found out this weekend again.
Yeah. Well, as you know, I mean, I fought against ISIS. I've interviewed them. I deal heavily with the victims of them. And the problem is that the far left are scared of the truth. They do not want to admit what the actual problem is. And I'll tell you, it's not a so-called far right. And of course, I'm labelled far right. You're labelled far right.
Yeah.
We're just awake. You and me are just awake with thousands of others.
Yep.
The biggest problem is the far left. They are openly supporting Islamic jihadist terrorism on our streets, Kevin.
Yeah, well, look what, there's a MP, the Labour MP for Gateshead, called Kate Osborne, took one look at that horror in Germany, in Berlin, when that Islamic terrorist deliberately drove into the Berlin Pride Parade, killing one and maiming many others. Kate Osborne took one look at that and said, well, this is the fault of Reform UK. This is the kind of insanity we're dealing with, Alan.
You really could not make it up, Kevin.
I know.
You know what? I hope it was a female police officer that sent him to hell, because he's not going to get his 72 bloody virgins. And I'll tell you what, you know, the likes of Kate, They should be going and meeting victims of Islamic jihadists, and not one victim will tell you that it's far right.
Yeah, indeed. And if she calls herself a queer out woman, well, she should take a trip to Gaza or one of these Muslim countries that she likes so much. See how she gets on there. Alan, excellent call. Good to talk to you again. Thanks for ringing. Alan in Aberdeen. Let's go to Anne in Essex. Hello, Anne.
Hello, Kevin.
Hi.
Hi, yeah, I just want to say that I think we're now reaping the effects of our judiciary and most of our institutions, which have been long infiltrated by left-wing activists.
Couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. Go on.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the judiciary in particular. I mean, they're handing down ridiculous verdicts. Our politics are, infested with the ideas of the left and the woke. Everything is in the grip of these woke left-wing idiots, and these are the enemies of common sense, Anne.
Well, the enemy within, aren't they, Kevin? Yeah. And I just think, I mean, all our institutions, as I say, they were long ago infiltrated. But I think now, when these so-called judges are handing down reasons for criminals to stay, such as their kids doesn't like chicken nuggets in their own country, and somebody's daughter wetting the bed.
Yeah, you saw that one. There's somebody. Well, if your daughter wets the bed, then we won't worry that you're a massive drug dealer who's been to jail twice. We won't deport you.
Absolutely, and I think now we're all supposed to fall about saying this is disgusting, this is awful, but I think there's somebody rolling on the floor laughing at us, rubbing their hands with glee, because I think we are being seriously trolled.
I think we're being infiltrated. I think you're right. I think there are people. I'm not saying I don't think they're that brilliant at organising everything, but slowly but surely, a kind of left-wing woke infiltration is infesting our authorities, our institutions, our politics, and it's changing this country. And this country now makes mad decisions like, let's not deport the twice jailed drug dealer back to his native Albania because his daughter wets the bed. I mean, what has that got to do with it? But this is the way these judges are thinking. It's crazy. It is absolutely crazy. Hard to know what to do, Anne, but let's stay strong. Thank you very much for ringing. Please call me again. Let's talk to Laura in Wiltshire. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Kev. How are you?
I'm OK. You want to talk about British justice? Bit of a joke these days, isn't it?
Well, it's just a bit puzzling until you actually start to look at the actuality of it. And Kev, something I've tried to bring up with various, I think we might have spoken about it before, and I've certainly spoken about it with Ian and Alex, is if you start to look at the people being called to the bar. Now, I'm a boring person who reads the Telegraph, which I love, cover to cover, first thing in the morning, 6 o'clock. It's really interesting. You look at the court and social section. If you look every month at the people being called to the bar, you'd be staggered. It's not the Camillas and it's not the, I don't know, the Christophers and whatever. It is.
Yeah, we have a lot of foreign students are attracted to the wonders of the British legal system, the British justice system. And you're right. I've done stories on this. That you look at the names of the people who are graduating to be our next generation of solicitors and barristers, and there are very few Smiths and Johnsons in there. They are all foreign names.
And there are Chinese names. I don't know, but there are the Mohammeds and the Chinese.
No, you're making a good point.
And then we start to get surprised. People today have been talking on Talk about, how can these decisions have been made? How can these human rights lawyers be doing what they're doing? I'm telling you, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but it's part of the plan. You get all the lawyers in here, you get the judiciary behind you, and guess what?
And you stay in the European Convention on Human Rights. You don't leave that, and then every time your country, as in Britain, wants to make a common sense decision. Let's deport this paedophile after they've served 8 years in jail, shall we? Let's deport this foreign rapist back to his home country now he's completed his sentence, shall we? No, because the European Convention on Human Rights, the European Court on Human Rights, won't let us deport them. And therein lies the madness, the kind of cycle of insanity that we're trapped in, the hamster wheel that we're doomed to tread, I'm afraid, Laura. Good call. Thank you very much. Please keep in touch. Laura in Wiltshire. Let's very quickly talk to Bob in Ludlow. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
I'm all right. What would you like to say, mate?
Basically, Andy Burnham. He's a flim-flam man, as we used to say.
What is he? He's a straw man, isn't he? He's like a sort of a kind of cardboard cutout man. Fill in the gaps, because there seems to be nothing but emptiness there, as far as I can work out.
He's a con merchant, basically. I mean,
that's the word I was looking for.
what he's basically doing with this number 10 North. I mean, I come from Hull originally.
Yeah. It's not north to you, is it? For a kick-off. Well, 45% of England is further north than Manchester.
Yeah, but I mean, I live in just outside of Ludlow these days in South Shropshire. But at the end of the day, this number 10 of the North is a sideshow.
It's a con, and it's an expensive one as well. Listen, Bob, I've got to move on because the show's nearly over, but give me a call tomorrow and let's have a proper chat. Good to talk. Rob in Ludlow, and Peter Carboy's in the studio. Hello, mate.
Hi, Kevin. Are you well?
I'm very, very well. What have you got lined up for the audience's entertainment from 7 until 10
Well, we'll be talking about whether the NHS would collapse without social care reform. We're talking as well about this